FanDuel TV's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Keeneland.
All eyes on me, and by me, we mean him. Flightline out on the racetrack, the heavy favorite for the biggest race of 2 days of championship racing, the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. But his main competition out this morning as well. Life is Good. Can he take the field gate to wire? And then there is Secret Oath. Can the Kentucky Oaks winner regain her form and be a factor in the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff? What do roosters work on at the gym? Their pecs. Obvi. Every day is a big day leading up to the Breeders' Cup. This Friday and Saturday, returning for the third time to Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington, Kentucky. But today is especially pivotal because later, post positions will be drawn for all 14 championship races. Prior to that, though, this morning, weather has taken center stage and has changed some plans. We'll have all the latest breaking news about how weather has affected preparations leading up to the Breeders' Cup. I'm Todd Schrupp, and joining me on our set here, just off the winner's circle, Christina Blacker and Simon Bray. So I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
How's your Breeders' Cup been?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. Yeah.
You feeling better?
Yeah, got off the vets list. I was locked down for a couple of days, but thanks to local IV bar here, we got through it, and here we are. Sound a lot better, feel a lot better. I've been very jealous, actually. Great job, by the way, everybody on the show. I've been sitting and watching at home. Phenomenal work.
We're very happy to have you back.
I appreciate it.
Christina, this weather, it's been rain over the last 24 hours or so. How much chaos does it throw into what's going on here?
Well, it was expected. It wasn't rain that we didn't see coming in terms of the forecast, and luckily we got through training yesterday morning. So for the most part, because the championship races are next weekend, now here we are on a Monday, most horses were going to work Friday and Saturday. We had a few yesterday, Sunday. There were a couple that was scheduled for today. We'll have some updates on those horses, but I think most horsemen were able to go when they wanted to. So important, too, Simon, that we were able to see both Life is Good and Flightline back jogging today, because that's important after their last works, that day of rest kind of back at the barn, and now back out for a light jog.
Yeah, I always say the most important part of a workout is either the day after or 2 days after to see how they came out of it, and we'll be touching on both those runners a little later on. Okay,
let's start with the biggest horse of the 2 days in the biggest race, the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. This is Olympiad, who will be taking on the biggest horse, Flightline, but Olympiad for trainer Bill Mott. And Olympiad at one time in the early part of the season, because we've had so much time in between races for Flightline, this looked like the best older horse in the country.
Really did. He was on quite the tear, several consecutive graded stakes victories, suffered a defeat in the Whitney where he was fourth behind Life is Good, but came back and he's sort of back on the beam, wasn't he, Simon, off that Jockey Club Gold Cup victory. First day out on the track, he'll probably be a little curious, just kind of taking in his surroundings.
Yeah, the thing I think about him as form throughout the year, I think he's been strategically placed. The races that he's entered in have come up, I don't think, as strong as some of the other contenders, like a Life is Good, like some of the races Flightline's been in. So he needs to take another step forward, but he looks very, very good out there on the track jogging.
And after all the praise following the win in the TVG Pacific Classic by Flightline, the racing media talked to Bill Mott, who was at Saratoga at the time, and plans moving forward to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Would Olympiad go there? And he almost said defiantly, they don't run just one horse in the race, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it seems like the task of beating Flightline has been a challenge to some of the greatest trainers in the game.
Yeah, it has. I mean, you shouldn't, the old adage, don't enter a race if you're just scared of one horse, because anything can happen. That's exactly right. But I think strictly on form lines, and when you start looking through the races of both Flightline and Olympiad, they're just worlds apart, in my opinion.
We have full team coverage for you here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Gabby Gaudette wandering the facility here at Keeneland. We also have Kate and Bradar over at Churchill Downs. Michelle 911U is here. And we start with Joaquin Jaime and Rishi Prasad.
Hey, Todd, good morning to you guys. We're out here, trainer John Sadler's barn, where Flightline is stabled just right behind us here. Flightline, he had his final breeze for the Breeders' Cup Classic on Saturday. He breezed 5 furlongs. Yesterday was his off day. He just walked the shed row for about an hour. We saw him on the track. He went back to the track today just for a light jog. Coming up later on in the show, we'll have a full report on Flightline and how he's doing coming into the Breeders' Cup Classic. Rishi, what's going to be your plan this morning here?
Well, I'd like to get a glimpse of Flightline as much as anything else, because I haven't seen him yet in the flesh, and obviously I've heard so much about him coming over from the UK that this might be the next greatest horse we've ever seen, so I'd love to be able to see him for myself. But I'm also going to spend some time down at the quarantine barn. Yesterday was very quiet. Similar sort of story today, because of course we're still waiting for the horses to get clearance. They had their bloods, they've got their temperature, and hopefully all will be clear. They'll be out on the track tomorrow. But today, hopefully, some of the competitors, in terms of the human competitors, will be here, some of the trainers and some of the other jockeys as well. So try and grab a word with some of them and see how they've come over and make sure that all the horses are safe and sound.
All right, well, we better get going. We have a little bit of a walk from Barn 60 out to the quarantine barn. Let's head on over to Michelle Yu. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Joaquin. I'm over here in the breakfast marquee. I heard no one has made their way here yet, so I will do those honors. And Rishi, here's a tip for you. I'm sure you're going to find a lot of people right outside the doors of the breakfast marquee, so maybe make your way over here as well. Like Todd alluded to, my journey here was a little suspect at best, but at least I made it on time for the show to start. And I'm looking out the window. I just saw Bob Baffert's crew go by, so I know the California horses made it here in a little bit better shape than I did, Gabs.
I'm going to have to check in with Michelle in a little bit, because I want a breakfast sandwich and maybe a cup of coffee. I need a little bit more waking up today. But, you guys, so much goes on during the Breeders' Cup, and so much focus is on the actual horses and the competitors and the trainers and the owners. But a lot of the time we forget about the breeders, hence the name Breeders' Cup. I'm so looking forward to later today introducing you to Martha Jane Mulholland and John Mulholland with Mulholland Springs Farm. They actually bred 3 Breeders' Cup contenders. We'll introduce you to them a little bit later today. Andy, good morning. Happy Halloween.
Good morning, Gabby. Oh my gosh, I pretty much completely forgot it was Halloween. This is honestly my favorite time of year. I mean, once everybody makes the move down to Rice Road, it literally just feels like a giant sleepover, or like camping, but with all celebrity horses. I mean, I moved Cinch down yesterday, and we're next to Rich Strike, Hot Peppers, Slammed. I mean, Olympiad is walking right in front of me right now. Like, Hot Rod Charlie is over there. It's just crazy. Everywhere you look, there's a Breeders' Cup horse. It's very exciting. Let's say good morning to Caden at Churchill.
Well, Andy, Mother Nature played some tricks, and it wasn't a treat for most of the Breeders' Cup trainers and any of the trainers here at Churchill Downs. Coach Dwayne Lukas called an audible with his filly Secret Oath, who was originally going to breeze this morning for her last workout prior to competing in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She ended up, because of the sloppy conditions this morning, just a maintenance gallop. We are going to check in with the coach to see how that impacts her schedule going forward, and we will also be talking to some other trainers as well as they get ready to ship over to the other side. The first fleet of horses will be leaving today about 10 o'clock, and then the rest tomorrow. Have to be on the grounds by 11 o'clock at Keeneland. Todd?
Thank you, Caden. And back here at Keeneland Racecourse, Flightline, as promised, out on the track earlier this morning. So we talked about what kind of workhorse he is, and that he can be aggressive, and he awed everyone when he was out here just a few days ago working. What are we looking for with what he's doing on the track now?
Well, you're trying to see how he came out of the work. This is a jog, so he's going the wrong way. Usually post-workout, the horses will spend the day in the barn, just an easy day walking, and then some horses will come out and jog, and some will gallop first day back. I think Life is Good will gallop, because that's not a horse that you want to jog and just give him more energy for another excuse to be tougher and tougher tomorrow and the next day. So we're looking at Flightline here. He won't do anything more than jog. He's wearing bell boots, those plastic boots over his front hoof there, to prevent any problems with him stepping on his feet or ripping a shoe off. He's got 4 bandages on as well, just to protect his legs so he doesn't bounce around and cut himself. And this is a horse that's absolutely hitting on all 4 cylinders. When you see a horse work and then you see him come out the next day and trainers say, we jogged him up and down the road, we want to make sure they're level, their gait is good. This this is exactly that.
You want to see the energy that he has this morning. You want to see the fluidity in that jog. You want to see him happy, and you want to see his weight good, his coat looking well. And remember, as Andy pointed out to us a few days ago, all of these horses every day, regardless of whether they worked or jogged or galloped, they have already done a jog for the state veterinarians and for the team of veterinarians for the Breeders' Cup up in the chute prior to coming out. So he's cleared all of his paces so far, and now just a light jog around the track just to kind of loosen things up again. You know, you think about yourself. If you go do a really hard workout one day, you might have a day of rest, but those muscles feel a little tight. Those muscles feel a little sore coming back off a big effort. You just want to kind of shake everything out, loosen up, stretch a bit, and then you'll be ready to get back into some more serious training tomorrow.
Absolute pro, Tom. This is what separates a good horse from a great horse, I think, or a great horse from a good horse. They can all have the physical aspects, they all can have the biomechanics, but mentally, I think that is the component that makes great horses great. He's that. He's come out, he's worked, he's sat a day in the barn. He doesn't have a pony hooked up to him. He's not, you know, being anchored by a guy walking him to and from the track because he's bouncing all over the place. Absolute true professional. This is a horse that, you know, of his caliber, with a day off and coming out, cool weather, wet track, he could explode, jump around. He's not. He's behaving perfectly.
Flightline earlier this morning here, the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. On my way in, I had a chance to see Bill Strauss and his wife, Hot Rod Charlie, going to try and upset Flightline. Michelle Yu is with him now.
Thanks, Todd. Like you said, with Bill, and we just watched Hot Rod Charlie go by. Do you have a conversation with him when he rolls by?
Well, not necessarily with him, but I was talking to Sabas, who was on Lava Man, to see how he was doing. Charlie doesn't talk too much, and he's pretty humble and quiet, but he looked good. He looked good.
I'll tell you what, though, he's got a huge heart. It's got to make you feel great every time you watch him go out.
Yeah, I mean, he throws it down every single race. He's never not shown up for a race. He's just a delight to be around. He's a neat personality, and of course on game day, on race day, he's just all out there, and it's just a lot of fun to be around him.
He's literally taken you all over the world. How does Breeders' Cup compare to the other experiences you've done with Hot Rod Charlie?
You know, each one is so unique and different, whether it's in Dubai for the 2 races. We travel a lot to the East Coast with him, on the West Coast. But the Breeders' Cup is the Super Bowl and World Series all rolled into one. So this is the big one that we really would like to get. But it's just been great, the experiences, having the family around with us and friends. It's just an unbelievable ride that only a big horse can give you.
I noticed that you came directly to the breakfast marquee. Have you eaten anything yet? They told me I couldn't eat yet. I had to wait for you.
Well, you'll be safe in about 5 minutes. I haven't eaten yet. I wanted to make sure I saw Charlie first, and then I can eat. Charlie's only out here for about a minute or two, whereas the breakfast will be there till noon. So I got plenty of time, but I'll do plenty of damage up there. Don't worry.
I'll be following right behind you.
Well, I hope to see you up there.
Bill Strauss, not only the partner on Hot Rod Charlie, but also, as you can see from his hat, Niagara Rock, who was a win-in, you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, although he is first preference to the Juvenile Mile.
And Hot Rod Charlie literally kicking up his heels.
Yeah, he's feeling himself this morning and just feeling good, feeling playful. You like to see that excellent energy from Hot Rod Charlie in this jog. And also, when a horse bows their neck down like that, it makes them use their hind end more in every movement, whether they're jogging, whether they're galloping. You think of dressage horses that have such good muscle tone. It's because they can move their body as they round their neck down like that. He's going to continue to kind of build that muscle just the way he's jogging here
That's
today.
why he has that huge hind end. When I was training, I always put an emphasis on my exercise riders to make them bow the horse's neck. And you do that by dropping your hands. The minute you lift the hands off their neck, it forces the head to come up. That's why we use draw reins. You might see some horses training a little later on. I think Life is Good with draw reins. And it forces a horse to bow their neck and use their rear end.
It was here at Keeneland and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile that Hot Rod Charlie first came to prominence, had a huge second to Essential Quality. He was training so well last year going to the Breeders' Cup Classic, then ran a flat race finishing 4th, but maybe Keeneland is his racetrack. But can he challenge Flightline? As we mentioned, with the weather, there's a lot of breaking news, and for that, Joaquin Jaime.
Yeah, Todd, for the news of the day, it is on the subject of the track surface. As you guys have seen out there, the main track is sealed because of the overnight rains that we've had. And there's also been a little bit of a tweak in the training schedule here at Keeneland Racecourse. The renovation break is now from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. I had a conversation with Dr. Stuart Brown earlier on this morning. He was been in contact with the track superintendent. And as far as the track surface goes later on today, Dr. Stuart Brown told me that they are going to go ahead and evaluate the track as soon as they're able to see it a little bit better. So as soon as they get some daylight on the racetrack, they're going to evaluate the main track. But I was told at least the plan for now is that they are going to open the track up and they are going to harrow it during this renovation break that starts in 7:30. Why is that significant? Because we do have 2 Breeders' Cup workers on the tab that we're expecting from Hall of Famer Steve Asmussen. That is going to be Jackie's Warrior, who was the beaten post-time favorite in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year. He'll be in the Sprint again this year. And then Clairiere, the multiple Grade 1 winner, who'll be running in an outstanding rendition of the Breeders' Cup distaff. So we'll stand by for more news on what is going to happen with this track surface at 7:30 a.m. when the renovation break starts. Let's go back to Churchill Downs right now with Kate and Bradar.
And Joaquin, picking up where you left off, because of the changes in the schedule and with the track maintenance, Steve Asmussen, the Hall of Famer, was actually here at Churchill Downs watching his earliest trainers before hitting the road and winding up at Keeneland. The reason a lot of trainers are changing things around is because of the rain that fell not only in the Lexington area, but here in Louisville, we had almost an inch of rain over the last 24 hours. The track was a sea of slop for opening racing for Churchill Downs here yesterday, and in fact the card ended up going late. They weren't done with racing until about 6 o'clock. This morning, not much better as far as the track was concerned. It is a sea of slop, and most of the trainers involved with Breeders' Cup horses, and everybody else for that matter, have opted to do some light training with their horses. As a result, we've seen almost all the Breeders' Cup horses out on the track already, with the exception of Kajira, who is going to come after the break for renovations, which is going on now. Interestingly, she has trained spectacularly, really eye-catching for Phil Bauer and Rigney Racing. I'll be interested to see how she handles the gooey going. She is pre-entered and expected to be entered in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. And I think she could be a sleeper. But right now we'll head back to Rishi in Keeneland. And Rishi, I'm pretty sure you brought this weather with you because it's been nice up until now.
Well, guaranteed to bring a bit of rain from the UK, Caton, no doubt about that. I tell you who'll be happy to see a bit of rain. Yesterday, when I was talking to Todd about some of the leading contenders for Europe, one of the horses that I thought would really appreciate plenty of rain was Kinross. So Rafe Beckett, who's due over to Keeneland at some point in the next couple of days, he will be delighted to have seen how much rain has fallen here at Keeneland. More rain, the better for Kinross, who will be running in the Breeders' Cup Mile. Obviously, it was a quiet day yesterday. The horses, the majority of the Europeans, arrived late on Sunday. They're waiting for their bloods to come through, the temperature checks, and then hopefully all clear by the end of this afternoon, which means that tomorrow morning they'll be out on the track. But we hope to catch up with trainers and jockeys arriving from Europe to talk about their horses at this weekend's Breeders' Cup meeting. Back to the set and the main guys. Todd, you're in charge.
Rishi, thank you very much. And this rain, as it pertains, though, to when these horses want to get on the turf course, is that going to throw things off a little bit? Aren't they going to have to protect this turf course because we're getting further and further into the week?
They might, but they've had the dogs so far out, those cones so far out, that the horses have been working on the outside path. The path that probably is not affected in a race circumstance. So we'll see. We'll monitor that situation. The good thing going forward is there's no more rain forecast for the rest of the week. Conditions look absolutely perfect going forward.
And luckily, as you know, it's been a very mild fall. It's not as if we're dealing with a course that has already taken a lot of rain in the last month, already taken a lot of racing to kind of soften it up, and this would have been another layer to sort of soak in. This course was already very firm. They were setting records left and right over opening weekend.
Yeah, if you talk to people who live around here, the rain was much needed, and so obviously it is a turf course that does drain rather quickly. The main competition, we told you about Hot Rod Charlie for Flightline. Well, Life is Good is the horse that Flightline is probably going to have to catch. They have made it clear Life is Good. His best route to victory is always to be out on the lead, and they're not going to change that in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. We got a chance to see him earlier this morning.
This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. In comparison to Flightline, you saw him jogging, going the wrong way. This is a horse you couldn't jog on a day off, and he is wearing those draw reins. And you can see it gives Amelia Green a much better chance to control him and bow his head, at least try to. Those are reins that go through the horse's bit, down the side, excuse me, and attach to the girth. It gives the rider a lot more chance to create some leverage and in turn hopefully bow the horse's head. They're not working as well as expected because he's probably had a day off, but you can see how tough he is to gallop. There's no more chance of her grabbing another hold on this horse. She's as short as she can be. If she took another hold, Christina, he'd be gone.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to kind of walk this fine line, right? She has to hold him. She has to be strong enough to not let him get away from her. But you also don't want to pick a fight with him either, because those are kind of little lessons that are inevitably going to add up and make more of a problem for the jockey come race day. You want to get him as kind as you can, and you want to try to get him just to relax as well as you can. But you have to take the edge off a horse like this. You couldn't just jog him the wrong way like Flightline did. You have to get a little bit of that energy out so that he stays as even-keeled as possible coming into race day.
Yeah, it's a very fine line. She's got him in a good rhythm now. His head's bowed. There is a fine line between having a horse's head tucked, and to a point, sometimes if you bow their head too much, they can start making a noise. It cuts off their air a little bit. You don't want to do that because it can irritate their throat and their breathing mechanism. So it's a very tough. She's doing a great job. This is by no means easy what she's doing. Believe me,
I want to see those guns. Can we get Amelia Green to, like, anybody want to arm wrestle Amelia at the end of the day?
That is quite a workout that she's getting aboard Life is Good. Simon, Christina made the point when looking at the post position draw for this race, and we'll know later today as they draw the post positions at Rupp Arena. Christina felt the best spot for Flightline is outside of Life is Good. Where's the best spot for Life is Good in the Breeders' Cup Classic post position-wise?
Towards the inside for him, if he wants to go. I agree with Christina. Flightline is much better suited to be on the outside, even if it's immediately outside, because then you've got the target. You're always at an advantage when you're on the outside looking in, I think, at any point of the race, whether it's down the backside, the front side, out of the gate. So I think that would be their best post position. Even if they're drawn post positions apart, 1 and 8 or something like that, I think it would be better suited for Flightline. If Life is Good is 1, Flightline is 8.
Later today, the post position draw, you'll see it here on FanDuel TV. Let's get back to the racetrack and Andy Biancone.
Todd, we're standing here at the top of the chute, which is one of the best places to be because we've got Caravel standing to our right. We've got Peter Miller right here. Pete, when did you get into town and how did CZ Rocket ship in?
We got in yesterday with the horses, and so far, so good.
We just watched CZ Rocket pass by with Harley the pony, with exercise rider Jarek Ello. What are your impressions of him so far?
Good. He's looks happy and ate up well, so his energy seems good. So we're just giving him an easy jog today, first day here, and let him check things out.
Will he jog to the race, or will he have a couple gallops before?
You know, we'll mix it up with him. He'll pony, he'll jog, he'll do a little bit of everything. He likes to change things up. He gets a little bored if he does the same thing every day.
Absolutely. What other kind of characteristics would you say are unique about CZ Rocket? I know he's such a good old horse. He's a very special horse to everybody. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's just the best. He's just kind and classy and a real people pleaser. And you know, he dances every dance. He's extremely sound and just a great horse to be around. Good doer, eats well. He's everything you want in a racehorse.
We love those kinds of horses. One last question. What kind of coffee are you drinking?
Medium roast, Starbucks.
Got you. All right, Pete. Well, thank you so much. CZ Rocket looks incredible, and we'll be looking forward to him training throughout the course of the week. Back to you, Todd.
Same thing.
Yeah, you do.
Medium roast. Starbucks.
You might be going to the same. Well, no, Starbucks on every corner. I can't say you necessarily go to the same one. But CZ Rocket, is he the same horse that he was when he ruled the sprint division at the age of 8 now?
I'm not sure. I think he might be just a slight step slower than he was at that point. And I think that Pete Miller has been pretty candid about the fact that he has had some bleeding issues over the past, and having to run without Lasix is a bit of a problem for him at times. But I think it was an interesting point that Andy brought up about the training. Is he just going to jog? A lot of sprinters will do that. You'll just see them jog into races just to get them feeling really fresh.
Yeah, especially an older guy like this. He's up there, 5 or 6 years old now. Been, he's got a lot of miles under his belt. And you heard him. We're going to mix it up. We're going to jog. We might pony him. Sometimes they'll just take a horse around here without the rider and the pony. Sometimes they're taken with the rider and the pony. It all depends. That's, it goes back to that feel, I think. there's no set plan for a horse like that. You've got to have some feel, make it individual.
The last time we were here at Keeneland for the Breeders' Cup in 2020, it was the breakthrough moment for Whitmore. Late in his career, he takes the Breeders' Cup Sprint after a few tries. Maybe it is CZ Rocket's turn. He was second that year, and now coming in as an 8-year-old into the Cutter Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. Let's turn our attention to the Turf Sprint and Caravel out on the track earlier this morning.
Yeah, we go back a year. We were covering this horse at the Breeders' Cup last year at Del Mar when Grand Motion had a Bobby Flay owned a piece of her, and then she went through the sale ring, and Brad Cox's crew bought a Qatar Racing and Madacat, and she's been very effective this year. She was an extremely, I think, to my recollection, of slightly aggressive filly in the morning last year, and sometimes she's shown that in the afternoon. I think a better races, Christine, when she's on or close to the lead.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. We saw kind of an easier work from her. I think we showed it yesterday, but it might have been a couple days ago. It was actually T.C. Stevens that was on her, breezing her. I wasn't aware when we were on the show that it was him, but he made the point to me, and we kind of chatted about it a little bit on Twitter. She's coming back in 3 weeks, so you don't want to do too much with this mare, the daughter of Mizzenmash. She's coming off a win. And Brad Cox also said that last race in the Franklin County was sort of the target. I'm not sure that they were always thinking of running in both of these races. So now she wins that race. She wins the Franklin County. You know you're kind of in against some real heavy hitters in the Turf Sprint. Let's take it easy. Let's try to get her as fresh as we can, because she needs to come with another peak performance, if not better, to beat this group.
I think, look, if I'm ranking her, she's an excellent Grade 3 filly, and I think that's probably where it ends. If I'm being honest, I mean, all her wins are at the Grade 3 level. Look, I'd love to own her. She's a great mare. She's a great filly, going to be a great broodmare, but I don't think she's quite the quality to win on Saturday next week.
Caravel preparing for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint as an expected long shot. As we've been talking about, while there's a lot going on with these preparations in the morning that we're bringing here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, we have an eye on what's going on this afternoon. It is the post-position draw for all 14 championship races. We invite you to join us for full team coverage here on FanDuel TV. It's going to start at 2:30 local time and run till about 4:30 at Rupp Arena. Handling the draw will be Brittany Urton and Rishi Prasad. And a reminder that if you're in the area, you can go to the Breeders' Cup draw in person for free. Free admission, no ticket required, and doors at historic Rupp Arena open at 2 o'clock Eastern time for public parking for the post draw. Look to gates 1 or 2 from High Street. And one of the highlights, when they get to the Breeders' Cup Classic, it is going to be University of Kentucky men's basketball coach John Calipari, who will draw the field for the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Don't miss it. The post-position draw for the Breeders' Cup later today. Our coverage brought to you by Rood and Riddle Equine Hospital. When we come back on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, he's one of the fastest horses in the world, but can he come through as the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Sprint? We'll be talking Jackie's Warrior.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
Everyday wins make your day that much better. And now, you have a chance at free everyday wins when you play FanDuel Casino's Reward Machine, the new daily free-to-play game that offers you the chance to win up to $2,000 in casino bonus. So take a chance on more every...
It's more fun that way.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
FanDuel TV's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Keeneland.
At last year's Breeders' Cup in the sprint, it was supposed to be a coronation for Jackie's Warrior. He was unbeatable. 50-cent favorite on the dollar, but unfortunately he got hooked in a speed duel and he finished sixth. Will it be redemption this year in the Breeders' Cup sprint? For owners Judy and Kirk Robinson, they hope so, but they also know Jackie's Warrior is one of the best horses they've ever had.
I'm Judy. He's Kirk. Our last name is Robinson, and we have been together for 60 years, and we've been married all that time.
We're in the restaurant business, and our primary business is the Peter Piper Pizza franchise in Texas. And then we're in the Applebee's business, and we got a little chicken brand called Boss Chicken and Tenders, and custard, which you enjoyed a little bit earlier. They both had the chocolate. They liked it.
It's good.
We live in El Paso. We came here in the early 70s from Southern California and had an opportunity to buy 4 little restaurants called Wiener Schnitzel. So we took that opportunity. That was 48 years ago, and we're still here. Once I got into racing and exposed to it, it never left me. And I knew going in that they would be expensive, meaning it's hard to make money in racing. I've proven that every day of my life since I've been in racing. I used to claim horses more than anything else. Then we kind of morphed into buying yearlings at Keeneland September with Steve Asmussen, and that's become our dominant way to get good horses. And also we breed in Kentucky, New Mexico, and California. We have about 20 mares. I've only had one trainer in the East, that was Steve. So it's really been a Steve show all the way. If a trainer buys a horse and has to train the horse, it's pretty obvious they should be motivated to pick out the best horse they can for the kind of budget you're spending.
Kirk names all of our horses except Jackie's Warrior. The breeder's sister-in-law had brain cancer. Her name is Jackie, and I guess was recovering or had recovered, and they named the horse for her. So we were really glad that we had not changed the name of the horse, but it's the only horse we've ever owned that we didn't name.
You don't give any Grade 1 winners that win again as a Grade 1 level and then win again at the Grade 1 level. Those are rare. I may never have another one like him. He's that good. We see everything on television or my iPad if I'm traveling. And thanks to TVG, it's our favorite channel, of course. Has to be. Steve texted me and said, "This is the fastest horse in the world." And I'm not sure I want that to make the cut here, but he was proud of the horse. So there's a lot of serendipity in racing. It just, some days it comes your way and some days it doesn't. It's hard to win. Right. It just is.
What a great use of the word serendipity. Looking at that resume for Jackie's Warrior, it stands out, but so does that crushing loss last year in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Will it be different this year for Jackie's Warrior?
I think it's possible. He's a twice-beaten Breeders' Cup favorite. Remember going into the Juvenile, everybody hoping he was going to be able to get the 2 turns. He's had some logical excuses in the Breeders' Cup. He's not a 2-turn horse. We found that out in his 2-year-old season. And he came off the race last year having to have surgery for a chip in his knee. He does come in fresh this year, which I think is a good thing because he was second in the Forgo after a pretty hard campaign this year. Maybe just those 5 races taking a little bit of a toll on him, most recently at the 7-furlong distance. Steve Asmussen has had the chance to kind of back off of him a little bit, which I think he's done with a lot of his horses. Training into the Breeders' Cup off works alone. He's clearly a horse that you can get ready off of works. He's clearly a professional, and he's very, very fit. This is the year for Jackie's Warrior, I think, in the Breeders' Cup.
I think it is. I mean, looking back on last year, he's one-dimensional. He's a horse that likes to be on the front end. He got chewed up in a pace duel, 21-2, 44 and change, and he couldn't sustain it. Looking through some of the pre-entries this year, the thing that amazes me, there's not 4 or 5. You would think Breeders' Cup Sprint, there'd be an abundance of speed. Maybe it turns out that way just by virtue of the type of race that it is. But when you look through this race on paper, at least going in at the pre-entry stage, he clearly appears to be the fastest horse in here. And I think you could see a situation where, yeah, maybe he could go gate to wire this year and not have a late closer like Aloha West did last year come and pick up the pieces.
Chad Brown confirmed recently to Racing Media that Jack Christopher will go in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. We all kind of expected that. Can that 3-year-old be up to the task of challenging a horse like Jackie's Warrior?
I think Jackie's Warrior is quicker. I mean, they can send Jack Christopher, but I think Jackie's Warrior at the end of the day ultimately is a faster racehorse and gets in front of Jack Christopher. Whether that duel materializes, that I probably thought was not there, well, we'll see how that plays out.
And remember, we're going 6 furlongs. I think Jack Christopher, as great as he is around one turn, I think that 7 furlongs, the 1-turn mile is really his sweet spot, whereas the 6 furlongs here at Keeneland seems to flatter Jackie's Warrior.
In the Breeders' Cup Sprint, they have a need for speed. Here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, we have a need for commercial break. But when we come back, we'll go through other divisions. We'll also take a look at some of the social media that is out there surrounding the 2022 Breeders' Cup. You're watching Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by WinStar Farm and Keeneland Racecourse here on FanDuel TV.
Longines. 70, 50, 75, 850, 75, 175, 175, 150, 175. Sprout, 850,000. Thank you.
Volatile, just like that. In front by 3, now by 4. And the time, 107.57.
As they pass the 16th hole, Volatile, victorious in the Vanderbilt. 1 by 2 lengths.
Sprout, 850,000. Thank you.
This is a Kentucky thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling big fan in the world. BigFans.com. Exceptionally engineered.
He was just put together like a machine, and he had a great mind. Everything about him was what you'd want.
Tis the law, pops the cork in the champagne. Tis the law is going to win the first leg of the Triple Crown.
I've never seen him get tired.
Respect the law, tis the law.
His structure is just perfect. His bone is perfect.
He's left the others behind. He's going to win the Run Happy Travers.
He's everything you would look for in a horse.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger. Snakeneck Spear and Sheen Murphy get through and have won. It's getting really tight. The star of the season, drawing line. The purple cap. Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline. Mongastina has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
Eclipse champion Run Happy, the #1 second crop dirt sire of last year, is back and showing a new dimension with winners on turf, dirt, and all weather.
Tabalina's really shouldered all the responsibility. What a deserved victory. Most impressive. Tabalina by 3 1/4.
Somebody's Problem is on her way to winning the Prairie Meadows Debutante. Somebody's Problem by 2.5, 3.
Run Happy, price for value, and standing strong at Claiborne Farm.
What's your guys' schedule like coming here?
We work at 6 a.m. every day.
6 a.m.?
We
But we get here at 5:30 to stretch and warm up.
What the hell time do you get up?
About like 4:45.
What time do you go to bed?
9:30.
So if you wonder what we do in our free time,
yeah.
Clearly, Simon's not joining us in those endeavors.
You want to do a TikTok? Come on.
I mean,
we'll find something
do
that you're
one.
comfortable
It was fun.
I'm over 50 years old. You know that, right? That's geared to a whole different generation. But I'll do one.
I'm too old for TikTok, too, if you ask any other 20-year-olds.
I'll do one. I'm saying it right here. By the end of the week, I will have done a TikTok with these two.
You want to dance, or you just want a voiceover?
We'll see.
Do you have any moves
No,
that you like
well,
to share?
I used to pull a lot of shapes, but
pull a lot of shapes.
Those days are gone.
Also, credit as part of our crew, Gio was fantastic in that TikTok. I have to ask you, though, because you've done a few dancing TikToks. Formal training, or is this just you free-forming?
Yeah, I was in the dance conservatory all through high school and everything.
So then I wonder about Gabby Gaudet. Gabby Gaudet formally trained in dancing in those TikTok videos, or just feeling the music?
I don't have any rhythm. You don't want to know how many takes that took. All right, Christina has all the rhythm. I just have the jazz hands. All right, that's where the magic is. It's right here. But guys, beside the point, more important issues here. Follow me. We have Alfredo Lorano, who is the track superintendent here, and he was just watching the tractors go by. I saw you approach the tractors just a moment ago. What were you checking for?
Well, we got to make sure every one of them has the same depth. So, and if it's something is not working right, I call them on the radio and tell them you got to adjust your back teeth or front teeth, and that's the way. So make sure everything on the racetrack is on the same depth.
What are you doing to the track this morning?
Right now is the renovation, which is we're repairing the track for the next set of horses coming and have a nice, fresh track.
And you're opening it. It was closed this morning. Can you talk us a little bit about the change of the surface this morning?
Yes, this morning. Last night we have a half an inch of rain, so we left the seal. It was a little soft, but right now, like 7:30, we go back at it, and it looks good now to be reopened. Some trainers open, some tracks like seal. So it depends on how good the track is to be reopened.
Do you have communication with trainers throughout the morning about the track?
Yes, a lot of the trainers tell us, they are different, so we're trying to state, the best, what is the best for the horses. And, we hear some trainers that like to say, oh, are you going to open it? They always ask us what we're going to do so they can make the set list or they can make plans for the horses in the morning.
Now, you and I had an amazing conversation just a moment ago. I did not know this about you, but Alfredo, can you tell us a little bit about your background in the industry before you got this position?
Well, I exercised horses for a long time for a lot of, what a few good trainers.
A few good ones, as in Dwayne Lukas.
Dwayne Lukas is one of them, yes. I worked for a little bit for Godolphin. I also work for Rusty Arnold here in Kentucky. And I got lucky. I was there at the right time, and, I rode nice horses, and I've been exercise horses for almost 27 years. And after that, when I got retired, they offered me the job here, and I took it. And my knowledge of horses kind of came pretty handy about the tracks. I've been on a lot of tracks, so now doing this is really, really different, but I like it because I get to the other side. What I like to be, do whatever is the best for the horses and for the riders.
Well, we appreciate all that you do, and I know a lot of data and maintenance goes into it. Alfredo, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to work as we check in for more with Rishi.
Yes, and alongside me is someone who's done a lot of travelling over the years. It's Les Reynolds, who's representing the Simon and Ed Crisford team. And they, of course, have floaters running at the Breeders' Cup on the weekend. But also, more immediately, the team have Without a Fight running in the Melbourne Cup. Midnight, I think, local time here.
I think it is midnight, isn't it now? Yeah, because we've moved, yeah, the guys are really happy down there. Everything's gone well. He travelled well. I know Dan that's sort of down there with Ed Crisford. They're over the moon with the horse. He's thrived on it. He went to Dubai last year, and he's a horse that over the years we've always thought he's a little bit soft, and if he took to it, it was one of those. He was either going to go one way or the other, but he's thrived on it, and they've been over the moon down there with him. He's trained well. I think they're just anticipating, today. So for them. The draw, he's drawn wide. which you think maybe is not ideal. But then Edward said that sort of the last few years, sort of high numbers have done very well. So, yeah, you never know, do you? You've got 2 miles to, and they've got plenty of. I think it's 5 or 6 furlongs, isn't it, to the first bend? So hopefully they'll get a posse and settle in and settle down, and yeah, he'll run a big race. Hopefully. You know.
He's got some great form in the book. The run behind Hookham in Dubai certainly puts him massively in the picture. Best of luck with him. But what a week it could be for the team. Obviously, if he runs well tonight in Melbourne and then floats on the weekend, how she travelled over, she has obviously had a super season.
Yeah, I mean, she's been absolute for Shadow Farms. I mean, they bought her at the sales last year. Ed Babington and the team, obviously, prior to that, had some great fun with her as a 2-year-old. She's thrived all year, and she's travelled out here brilliantly. The guys travelled her out here. I didn't fly over with her, but she had her own stall. She got her head down. I mean, she's travelled in. Her weight was great because it was a long haul. They had to fly to Shannon, pick up the O'Brien team, and then fly on to here. So it was a long day for them. But she's taken it well.
You were telling me yesterday that it's a quiet time at the moment, waiting for all the confirmation medical-wise, bloods, temperature, and then hopefully clearance this afternoon so you can go on the track tomorrow. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, all being well, we'll be clear sort of this afternoon. I think it's 42 or 43 hours or something like that. But, yeah, we'll be clear then for the morning. So, yeah, hopefully we'll be going to the training track, keeping it simple. Just get them out and, get them back in, and hopefully you don't want to be doing too much the first couple of days. They're going to be fresh. So. And
last thing, Les, you mentioned the phrase great fun. Now, you've done a lot of these trips. You've been involved with the John Gosden team, etc., Ravens Pass. You mentioned Donatavium. Yeah. What would be your best memory? Would it have been Ravens Pass winning the Classic?
I think I've got to say the Classic. I mean, myself and Danny Harrop came out with the 2 horses. Danny's still there now at Gosden's, and yeah, I mean, it was magical. I mean, I've had some great. I mean, obviously over the years I've travelled with Classic winners, but yeah, that was memorable. We just kept pinching ourselves on the way home. We've had a Breeders' Cup double. We've won the Classic. I mean, it was on synthetic then. Then obviously they reverted back to the dirt. But no, that was one of it was probably my most special memory. Yeah.
Well, the magic of the Breeders' Cup. And what a double it could be for the Crisford team. And Les Reynolds, thank you so much. The Melbourne Cup and the Breeders' Cup, 2 of the biggest wins in the same week. It could happen.
This is a huge week in thoroughbred racing all across the world. And reminder with Ravens Pass, that was at Santa Anita when he won the Breeders' Cup Classic, and will be returning to Santa Anita next year. But what about the horses they brought over this year for the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got a chance, I think. But I wouldn't say, some of the top European chances. But, Simon Crisford, I know him. He and I worked together back in Newmarket many, many years ago. He was a long-time administrator. He started off as a journalist, went to become an administrator for Darley and ran their operation. Now he's training on his own with his son, Ed. But very smart, very shrewd outfit. They wouldn't bring the horse just to show up. It's kind of one of those deals. He's not just here for the invitation. So if they're coming, they're a live threat.
Can you imagine the logistics of running horses in 2 events on 2 different continents like this?
Hemispheres.
I mean, unbelievable for them just to be in this position. Good luck, obviously, in both.
And a reminder that FanDuel TV will be showing the Melbourne Cup. So look for that international racing action on FanDuel TV. Back to the preparations here for the Breeders' Cup. It was just a couple days ago that Flightline left everyone in awe with his final workout leading to the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Simon, we're going to look back at this workout, and then we're going to compare it to how Flightline has worked previously. And let's start with that work back here on October 29th, just 2 days ago.
Yeah, I want to revisit it because unfortunately I didn't get the chance to talk about it. I waited a year for this show, and I had to sit on the sidelines. So we're going to go back and take a look at it. And I think everything's been said that's been said about him, but he's just, to me, and I've said this earlier on the week, this show has been, in some sort of form on TVG and now FanDuel TV for the last 19, 20 years. And I think there's 2 horses that have stood out over those years. One would be American Pharaoh, and number 2 would be this horse. biomechanically, they're very similar. They've got an efficient way of going, and I'm just so impressed. Being based on the West Coast, having watched this horse work over the last year and a half, there's been a major transformation in maturity and development, the ability to listen to the rider, to switch off, to finish, not be overly aggressive. It takes a lot of stress off the trainer. When horses are so aggressive in the morning, you're always, as a trainer, in the back of your mind thinking, is something going to go wrong? Are they hitting the ground too hard? Are they putting too many miles on their legs? Is there going to be an injury? But he floats. He's very, very good. He's very light on his feet for a big, good-looking horse. Just an outstanding work. If we're back in the day when we're grading these things, I mean, it's A+ all the way through.
And Christina was talking about how he reacted past the wire here to the other horses around him.
Yeah, you can see his gallop out was tremendous. Racing manager Jeff Lifson, who's part of the West Point Thoroughbreds team, he went on social media. He didn't watch the work from the front side. He watched it from the back side. And if you watch his video, it's even more telling when he comes galloping by. He said, this is a horse who's galloping out, and he literally shoots through the screen on the gallop out. I mean, it's tremendous. You can see he sees the horse on the outside, and I mean, I like the way he's very professional. You can see he gets aggressive, and he's not running off, but when he sees another horse, it becomes a target for him.
The nice thing is that all of these works have looked the same over the last month, too. If you want to go back just this last month at Santa Anita, those 3 works, the final work here, he's doing exactly the same thing each and every time.
But they haven't looked the same if you go back a year.
Well, let's do that then. Yeah. Tell us what was different about him a year ago in the way that he worked.
This is development before your very eyes here with Flightline. This is maybe one of the reasons he hasn't raced very much. And I think John Sadler has been very patient with him because of this development. You can see a horse in the early stages. Let's go ahead and roll the tape. And you can see a horse working last year on the left. This is on March the 7th in 2021. Freeze it right here. You can see, look at the rider on the left there. Feet in the dashboard, head up, short hold of the rein. Towards the right-hand side of the screen, the current workout. Look at the rider. He's more forward. His hands are more relaxed. His legs are not bent forward. It's so, so different. I mean, you see a tremendous difference right there last year to right here this year. And can I tell you what this one reminds me of? And we'll get to this in just a second. That reminds me of Life is Good right there. I mean, you could put these 2 horses in the screen, and that was Life is Good. Okay, go ahead and roll the tape. And it's just a remarkable transformation. And I think what's happened, he's got the same amount of talent. He moves the same way. But as I said earlier in the show, the difference between a good and great horse is the mental acumen, the ability to learn things and grow from them, and that's exactly what he had. He's got the brain to be a great racehorse. He's learned how to switch off and the ability to finish. You're going to see him here on the left-hand side. There's going to be a couple of horses in front of him, and right here, they're in front of him right now, and you can see he gets more and more aggressive as he gets a target, and the rider's looking to just take him to the outside right here. And it's all well and good, but I think if you'd seen Flightline continue on the path on the left-hand side of the screen, we might not be in the same situation that we are in today. I really believe that.
And this is why these lessons that Juan Leiva is able to teach him are so important for Flavien Prat in the afternoons in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Everybody is going to know where Flightline is during this race. Flavien Prat needs to have the option to rate him. He needs to have the option to help him shut off a little bit. He needs to have the option to go inside of horses, to go outside of horses. If you have the ability and then you have the mental acumen to go ahead and make your own luck, to make your own trip, Flavien has the tools at his disposal to ensure that he gets a good trip.
Flightline is a horse that is already shown us his unique ability by dominating the TVG Pacific Classic. Can he do the same thing to a world-class field in the Breeders' Cup Classic? All signs pointing towards that, which is quite a statement. As we talked about, Life is Good out on the track earlier today. But let's look at him. And you're right, Simon. It's astonishing now looking at that video a year ago from Flightline. Life is Good is still that kind of horse.
Yeah, wait till when we get done with this. I'll show you another comparison in a minute. But you can see this is the difference. This was Life is Good working, totally different animal. They've probably got the same, athletic ability, similar sort of talent. But the thing that could separate them is the ability to, just behave a little more professionally, learn your job, show the ability to switch off, be a little kinder to the rider. This to me is the type of horse that, if someone did challenge him, I don't think there are many options for the rider, right? It's one-dimensional. Flightline, I think, has shown us the ability to sit off the pace here. And I'm not knocking Life is Good by any means. I'm just trying to accentuate the differences between the two types of animals at this high level. Very, very different type of animal. And this horse, very up-tempo. Flightline could have been like that, could have ended up like this if he hadn't learned his lessons along the way and had John Sadler doing the right thing by him.
This was just 2 days ago, and it was later in the day. Early in that morning, Flightline had his workout, 5 furlongs, and then Life is Good came out after the renovation break a little bit later into the morning and worked a very similar time, but in a very different way. Okay, let's go to your comparison, Simon.
Yeah, all right. Let's put it all together now through this segment. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. Let's freeze it right here, and you can see, similar to what we saw in the earlier comparison. Here's Flightline. You can see, let's zoom on to him. Rider, feet forward, feet back, just a nice relaxed rhythm there. You can see he's not really pulling against him. We go to Life is Good. That could have been Flightline a year ago, right? If you just change the tack and equipment, look at it, head up. Excuse me, Amelia Green's doing a great job. Again, not a criticism. It's just explaining and showing the difference between the two types of animals and what I think will ultimately be the difference maker when it comes to the Breeders' Cup Classic on Saturday.
Remember all of the progress that Life is Good has already made, too. Let's think back to when he was a 2-year-old, and he was always one of those horses that had the raw ability, but in addition to being so high energy and so intense, he was veering out into the middle of the racetrack. He was getting lost in the middle of his races. I remember there's all that chatter, oh, it's the big board, he's looking at the screen, he's doing this, he's doing that. I think he's just a horse that mentally is difficult to manage. You have to try and work not only on the physical, but on the mental as well. And they've done that in the Pletcher camp. He runs straight now. He's still a little high in energy and still intense, and he's still really on the muscle. But he's not trying to veer out into the middle of the racetrack. He's not shying from the equipment. He's not fighting the rider as much as he used to. There's progress here, but he's still a different type of horse than Flightline is right now.
When Life is Good won the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year at Del Mar, the fractions were astonishing. An opening quarter mile 21-4, a half 44-4, got to the 3/4 in 108-3. There is no rating, and that was an advantage in the mile. But everyone's talking about, does he have the ability to get to a 1.25 miles? Could he just be sent out there under Irad Ortiz Jr. and pull it off?
Yeah, I think that's his best opportunity to win this race. I really do. And I can't criticize the Connections for trying the 1.25 miles one more time, because for 2 reasons. One, he's done it once in Dubai. I was there. The track was very deep. The stretch is very long. It's a 1.25 miles that rides like 1 3/8, and he didn't see out the trip. If you're ever going to try it, I think this is the situation to do it in. A race like here at Keeneland, I think the track will be favorable for him, especially it's not as deep as Dubai, and 2, the configuration, I think, will help him as well.
And you think about the weather that we're expecting that warm weather. It's going to be a nice, beautiful day. I think being along the inside at Keeneland, if you are on the rail, that's always a good place to be if you have some speed. If you're ever sitting up in the grandstand, you have those parasols because the sun's coming right at you. That sun is also hitting the outside portion of the racetrack. As you get that warmth, I think it kind of floats up like a cake a little bit. You get a faster, tighter surface along the inside, which is where he will be.
What a showdown. The top 2 betting choices in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, Flightline and Life is Good. Joaquin?
Well, Todd, back here on Rice Road, things starting to pick up once again as this renovation is coming to an end right now at 8 o'clock local time out here at Keeneland Racecourse. 2 horses that are going to be expected to work from Hall of Famer Steve Asmussen's barn are going to be coming out here shortly in just a few moments. That is going to be Clairiere, a multiple Grade 1 winner. She's won 3 races this year. Malathat, who's going to be one of your favorites in the distaff for Todd Pletcher, she's defeated her twice this year. So Clairiere, she's going to be having her final workout for the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She was a close 4th last year, only defeated 3/4 of a length. And then we also have Jackie's Warrior, who was your post-time favorite in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year. He came out of that race with an injury. Here's the thing with Jackie's Warrior. He has had 17 starts, 12 victories. He's a champion sprinter. He won the Eclipse Awards as the champion sprinter last year. When you go through Jackie's Warrior's lifetime past performances, he's coming off a loss in his most recent start in the Forego. Out of those 17 races, he's only lost back-to-back races once in his career. He's had an outstanding career as a sprinter, 12 for 17 lifetime. Jackie's Warrior is going to be having his final workout for the Breeders' Cup Sprint as well. So both Jackie's Warrior and Clairiere are going to be coming up and having their final preparations for the Breeders' Cup. So we're going to step away for a break. Stay with us here on FanDuel TV. Much more to come on Breeders' Cup at the Breakfast Show. And we have Clairiere and Jackie's Warrior working for the Breeders' Cup coming up next.
When the thoroughbred world descends upon Lexington this November, there is one place you need to be. The place where history comes alive with every championship victory.
He's authentic indeed.
The place where the future is built with the fall of a gavel. The place that exists to be the heart of this industry. The center of it all. Home to the November breeding stock sale and 2022 Breeders' Cup, Keeneland.
TVG's free handicapping tools are at your fingertips. Access expert picks, both found on the app and at tvg.com. Find selections in either the promotions header, under the More tab, or on the race page for select races. And follow your experts to get notified when new picks are available. Then use the bet ticket to play along. Check out TVG's expert picks, both on the app and at tvg.com.
FanDuel is dropping you in the middle of all the fantasy football action all season long. Right now, new customers can play $1 worth of contests and get a $10 bonus instant. It's easy to build a team in minutes. And from single game to season-long contests, you can take home W's all year long. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
We're back here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup as we continue on here this morning at Keeneland Racecourse. That is a live look at your 2021 Eclipse Award champion sprinter and Jackie's Warrior. He's going to have an easy 3/8 drill. 3/8 is going to be the workout plan for Jackie's Warrior. And then right behind Jackie's Warrior, Hall of Famer Steve Asmussen has made it from Churchill Downs. Steve Asmussen is going to pony Clairiere, the multiple Grade 1 winner, who's going to be working an easy half mile in preparation for the Breeders' Cup distaff. So, Andy, you have Jackie's Warrior, Clairiere, and Willie Boy, who's going to be in the Breeders' Cup sprint, all walking up the dirt path, getting ready to step onto the main track right now, Andy.
Joaquin, so far, Team Tap is the first one up here, locked and loaded, and we're standing by with Nest, who is very friendly to her buddy Cinch this morning. Let's get her thoughts from the day. Nest, how are you doing this morning? A woman of many words, many talents, many words. She's just excited to get onto the track, loves her buddy Cinch. The other day, I remember she worked and I tried to jog up to her. She was a lot more aggressive. She switched her tail at Cinch. She was being a little bit aggressive, but that was because she worked. Today, she's just galloping, and she's just, as you can see, as relaxed and friendly as can be. I mean, she's just taking everything in sight. Sometimes horses can get a little bit anxious as they wait at the chute because they are anxious to get onto the track, get onto their workout, but she's just got all the class in the world. So happy, as all these horses do. We've got, as you can see, Chocolate Gelato, Happy Saver. We've got the Chad Brown group just a little bit further down the hill, and we've got plenty more horses walking up, so stay tuned, and we will get to all those horses as they train and go around the track.
Christine, a couple days ago, while everyone was focused on Flightline, Nest had her final major work leading up to the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff. I thought she was impressive as anybody that morning.
I would agree. It was an excellent work for Nest and exactly what Todd Pletcher wanted. And I think she is one of those that has a bit of an attitude here and there, but she's relaxed. She's in her routine now. And again, another just important jog for her. Nice, easy day as she's going to head out with the pony here.
Yes, she will, and you can see some of the Breeders' Cup's vets in the background just watching all these horses, checking as they come out. Very important, watching them jog. She's a beautiful filly, and she's improving, and that's no surprise, really, being by Curlin. Those horses get better with age. She does have a figure-8 noseband on. You can see those two white straps across her face, a regular noseband, and one that just drops down below her mouth just to keep that mouth closed and avoid the tongue getting over the bit. affords the rider a little more control. You get that tongue over the bit, it's like driving down the freeway and losing power steering on your car. Not a good situation.
Nest is a daughter of Curlin out of the AP Indy mare Marion Ravenwood. It was bred by Ashview Farm and Colts Neck Stable here in Kentucky. And her last 3 races, she has shown, Simon, that with these 3-year-olds, this is the time of year they can get really, really good. And in the second half of this season, she is really good.
Yes, and I think that comes with development and maturity. Not deep fields. She's only beaten 4 or 5 runners each time, but still, she can only face who goes up against her, and she's been demolishing that group. Obviously, strange situation. Her biggest competition comes from a stablemate, Malatha.
Nest in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff, and then there is Jackie's Warrior, as we told you about, in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And we get to see Jackie's Warrior now out on the racetrack, and Jackie's Warrior really thriving here in the fall conditions at Keeneland. It is just such a gorgeous morning now, breaking away from the pony horse.
And he's just such a gorgeous horse in general. I mean, everything about him, he's built so well, and he kind of shows himself off a little bit when he's out there. He does that when he's schooling, he does it when he's jogging, he does it when he's galloping. You can see the cotton in his ear. Steve Asmussen does that with a lot of his horses, just to kind of muffle the sounds of what's going on around them. Again, keeping in mind that he's training them both physically and mentally. But Jackie's Warrior is one of those that, to the untrained eye, you can take a look and say, wow, that's a nice horse, that's a good horse, just the way he carries himself.
Yeah, you take anyone off the street and they're going to pick this horse out in the lineup. And you can see the physical makeup, how different it is from a horse like Nest, who's bred to go around 2 turns. Look how strong, how compact. The depth of shoulder, so for where the rider's hands are to the top of the horse's left front leg, big, straight, steep line there, nice hind quarter, for the power from the kind of just behind the saddle back towards the horse's rear hind quarter there. I mean, just a lot of strength, a lot of muscle, developed like a sprinter, and you wouldn't believe this is one of the fastest horses in the country, watching him here, right, in his slower paces. We've seen horses like Life is Good, very aggressive, pulling, Caravel, hard, pulling in the morning. She's a sprinter, but this is a horse that has got 2 ways of going, I would imagine, slow and extremely fast.
He's very classy, too, though. Think about in his races, oftentimes Joel Rosario doesn't have a real tight hold of the reins. He's got that kind of loose rein, loose hold to him. Jackie's Warrior knows his job, and he's a real professional out there.
And he is returning to where it all started. He is a Keeneland September sales purchase back in 2019 for a phenomenal $95,000. What a return on investment. Has earned nearly $2.8 million. And Christina, something you alluded to earlier when talking about Jackie's Warrior, a little bit different approach for Steve Asmussen coming to the Breeders' Cup Sprint this year. He's waited after the 4 go. Last year when they won the Allen Jerkins up at Saratoga, there was a race in between. They went to the Gallant Bob. This time around, with similar timing, there is no race in between before the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Yeah, so they let him open it up a little bit there, just let him blow out a touch, it looked like, with Jackie's Warrior now kind of slowing him down as they come in to the turn. And I think, truthfully, you look at all those races that he had in succession this year off the Breeders' Cup last year. He came back in April, the win in the Count Fleet, the win in the Churchill Downs, the win in the True North, the win in the Vanderbilt. When they got to the 4 go and to stretch out 7 furlongs, he just didn't quite look like himself in those last few strides. He needed a freshening. He's got it. Now he's fit and fresh to take on Breeders' Cup competition again.
Yeah, it's exactly the right decision. I mean, I'm not questioning Steve Asmussen. I think it's a good move. I think he's going to benefit from coming in off the layoff there.
When Jackie's Warrior got hooked at that speed duel that Simon was talking about last year in the Breeders' Cup Sprint and was defeated as the 50-cent favorite on the dollar, it was Aloha West who took advantage and went on to victory. He is back to try and win the Breeders' Cup Sprint again. This is a live look at Aloha West out on the track here at Keeneland.
You can see Aloha West going on the pole, a lot different, or galloping a lot different to Jackie's Warrior. We just saw a little more aggressive here, and you can see the exercise rider. I mean, you don't want to move here. He's got his hands, he took the cross of the reins, got his hands locked, his hands in the neck strap here, and you can see he's just dropping down to the rail now here and easing off. So the transition from a slow gait to a fast gait, from a gallop into a workout, is very, very important in my eyes. I think it sets the tone for the work. You want a smooth transition. You just don't want to blast off. I don't think that does anyone any good. But now he drops to the rail. The rider can drop his hands. He can lower his center of gravity and just let him roll around there.
Love to see his ears, too. Look how he's just kind of flicking those ears back and forth. Even though he's strong, even though he started that work with a lot of gusto and a lot of energy, he's doing it very well within himself. He's just a powerhouse, this horse, just kind of jumping into every stride out there. He's really tough for the rider. The rider is kind of grabbing that right rein right now, it looks like, a little bit. Not always what you want to see, kind of trying to hang on one side versus the other. But he is coming into this race off of victory in the Churchill Downs back in July. Another one of those that is training up to this effort.
Well, going to be a much different time, I imagine. If you're wondering, with Jackie's Warrior, who we just watched go 3 furlongs, that final time, 37-3. And we talk a lot about trainer Steve Asmussen not looking for fast times in the mornings. That was a prime example with one of the fastest horses in the country, Jackie's Warrior, completing 3 furlongs and 37-3. Aloha West finishing strong here, and his final workout before trying to defend his title in the Cutter Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. Aloha West, when he took the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year, drew in the middle of the field and then rallied for the win to get up by a nose and pulling off the upset and going on to a championship season off that win. Aloha West back for more here at Keeneland. Posts big here when you look at Keeneland in a sprint race in a sizable field. You know, we didn't see during the fall meet, I think, Christina, a lot of horses rallying from far back in sprint races here. Do you think that's all different when it comes to the Breeders' Cup?
No, I think it's going to be very similar, and I think, you know, very often you get that tight, that kind of fast surface for a championship day. So, yeah, you want to be along the inside if you have that speed as your weapon.
And I think it's hard to make a big sweeping move off this turn if you're coming wide. So, I mean, that goes with any racetrack, but I think it's a little less favorable here to make that big wide sweeping move.
Let's head down the 64 West and go out to Kate and Bradar at Churchill Downs.
You know, Todd, I was going to ask Dwayne what the secret to eternal youth is, but I think I figured it out because I was watching you just a little while ago talking to a group of future farmers of America from Colorado, and you were in your element. Is that what brings you great joy, talking to the next generation?
Well, sure, it brings me a lot of satisfaction, but you know, the thing about it, Caden, is I always said, if you've ever been a teacher, once a teacher, always a teacher. You can't help yourself. I get the role in there, and you want to share whatever wisdom you have. And, of course, you know, with all the background we have here, they really were eating it up. But if you're a teacher once, you are always a teacher. You just get into it and start teaching.
I think we use the coach and teacher interchangeably, and I know that is true for a lot of the jockeys that have ridden for you over the years. Michaela Michelle, young jockey starting out here in the Midwest, was aboard Secret Oath for her last workout. I saw that she was aboard her this morning for her training here before she ships over to Keeneland, and you called an audible. Instead of breezing, she just galloped. Talk a little about that. Do we read too much into these decisions? Do we put too much emphasis on last workouts and whether they happen or not, especially for a filly of her fitness where she's at?
Well, I think that we might overreact a lot on the last week. I always feel like we're not going to change much in the last week. Let's just keep the energy level up and keep them happy. We went out there today. I wasn't sure when we went through the gate what I was actually going to do. I wanted to look at the track. I'd seen the track and went out, and I didn't like it. But after I got out there, I'm on my horse, so I'm getting a feel for it too. I decided that we weren't going to move forward this close to the race by working over a track like that, maybe getting a bruised heel or something. So I just galloped her and so forth. And actually, we're going to go into the race without the work now. We're just going to not have it. I don't want to do it Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it's a little too close.
She ships tomorrow to Keeneland and then is on the grounds to complete her preparations, kind of just maintenance. Are you happy with where you're sitting with her right now?
Extremely happy. I really feel good. Whether she's good enough to win, that's something else. But I really wouldn't want to change anything right now. I really feel like she's in her element. She's very, very happy and content right now. I like that she's put on a few pounds, I think, and filled up since her last race. I wouldn't change anything. I don't think I could change anything. If the real Secret Oath shows up, she's going to have a really good run on Saturday. But I like where we're at.
Well, we like where we're at when we get to spend time with you and also to have your presence in the race. And we're going to go back to Keeneland, where right now one of the challengers for Secret Oath, one of the top fillies she's going to have to contend with, is going to put in a workout momentarily.
Yeah, that would be Clairiere for trainer Steve Asmussen. But I want to mention the legacy of Dwayne Lukas. Is it safe to say, and not overstating it, the Breeders' Cup would not be what it is today without the early participation of Dwayne Lukas?
He got behind it from day one, and he put the support in. And you know, in those early days, if you're new to this sport, just Google Breeders' Cup late 1980s, early 1990s, and all you'll see is Dwayne Lukas everywhere.
And he will be represented by, we said, Secret Oath and the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff. But then there is Clairiere. She conquered Malathat twice, who ultimately could be the favorite in this race. Most people assume it's between Malathat and Nest. Are they making a mistake here by writing Clairiere off because of one race where it seemed like she had a big excuse?
Yeah, she really lost it at the gate. Got fractious in the starting gate last time out in the personal ensign. That was back on August the 27th. The same kind of pattern for Steve Asmussen, having trained these horses up to the Breeders' Cup. So including today, this work you're going to see, she'll have 5 local works. I watched some of her older works in the past as well, Simon. She does this at the beginning. She fights the rider a little bit. She gets a little tough when they first start. But by the time they finish up, she just moves like a gazelle. She settles in, and she really propels herself forward into every stride.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell she's a filly, very feminine looking. Reminds me of one of those 1800 oil paintings of a horse. I mean, she's very angular. She looks the part. And yeah, I mean, now the rider, once he got her head to drop on a long rein, he's let her out, and you can see she's reaching, got a great stride. It's just her being enthusiastic. Right there, the lead change. That's why she lifted her head up. When they're going at racing pace, it makes it a lot easier to switch leads, and she wouldn't do that. But this program coming in very similar to Jackie's Warrior, right? 6 races through the summer, had a layoff since late August, now comes in a fresh racehorse. She should not be dismissed. To answer your question at the top of this segment, Todd, I know she's been beaten by Malathat a bunch of times, but she's also turned the tables on her twice. So that in and of itself puts her right in the mix.
She's feeling good. She's still trying to get tough here and there with the rider. You saw the little bit of, give and take at the beginning, a little give and take in the lead change, a little give and take again with the second lead change coming into the turn. The rider's done a great job. You can't let her do too much. She had enough out of that work. You saw the stride you wanted. You saw the way she's moving, kind of get a little bit more fitness, open up those lungs. But again, you can do too much this morning. To Wayne Lukas's point, he's not as worried about missing a work as he would be about overdoing it this close to the race.
I think that was very telling what Wayne Lukas said, because I think a lot of people that watch the show, we parachute in 2 weeks before the race, a week before the race. We watch one work and sometimes hang a lot of credence on that. It's just a snapshot of a moment in time. Secret Oath, she doesn't need a work. She last ran September 24th. She's fit. This filly, she doesn't need a work for her fitness today, but she needs a work probably just to keep her, from climbing the walls, to take the edge off. Secret Oath, she's not. If she loses on Saturday, if she wins on Saturday, it's not going to be because she didn't have a work today.
We often opine in racing, we don't see the matchups we want often enough. Think about Clairiere and Malathat, who are 2 of the top horses in the distaff division. When they meet on Saturday in the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff, it'll be the 8th time that they have raced against each other. Who will get the upper hand this time around, or will it be someone else?
Or even Nest. I mean, this might be one of the deepest distaffs we've seen in quite some time, for sure, top to bottom.
Michelle, who are you with?
Guys, I'm back here with John Sheriffs. I walked all the way over the barns, and I found the California contingent. John, how you doing? You're smiling, so I feel like that's a good sign.
Hi, Michelle. Yeah, I feel great. Yeah, it's great to be in Keeneland.
And I was watching Beyond Brilliant, walking around. He looks fantastic. What's the plan for him between now and Saturday?
There is just to get him familiar with the area, get him a look at the racetrack and over to the paddock, and just do sort of basics things that'll make him a little more comfortable when race day comes.
All right. Anything special for Beyond Brilliant that needs to happen?
I think in turf racing you need a break, right? Because it's really congested and everybody's riding on each other's heels. So you need an opening or something like that. I always think in races like this you need just a little bit of luck, right? That makes things sort of fall into place.
Appreciate it, John. Andy, I know you're standing by.
Steve, Clarier just worked incredibly. I mean, what are your impressions following the work?
Well, we're extremely excited about how well the Breeders' Cup horses are doing. The Keeneland surface has allowed us to do a considerable amount with them, and every time they've come out of them better. So, got a huge week coming up with high expectations.
I noticed Clarier looks pretty relaxed galloping yesterday, and you took her to the pole yourself with your pony here. Does she get a little more aggressive when she works?
Well, she comes back around to you pretty quick, just wanting to leave it in her. Carlos did a wonderful job with her, exactly what we were looking for, and expect the best race of her life.
Thank you so much. Really looking forward to seeing her and the rest of the contingent this week.
Thank you.
Look, it's accepted that all horsemen and women work hard. That's a blanket statement, but I just have to relay, watching Steve Asmussen is a wonder. I went over to Churchill Downs yesterday with some friends for opening day of their fall meet. It was raining, and there was Steve Asmussen leading one of his horses out personally out to the post parade. And then, as Kate mentioned, he was at training hours this morning at Churchill, drove all the way over, and now here he is ponying Clarier out there. I look at guys like him and Jonathan Wong, they seem to be everywhere. I don't know how they do it.
I don't know how they do it either. And we talked a little bit yesterday on the show just about how Steve's able to keep everything mentally cataloged about all of these horses and attention to that sort of detail. You don't win 10,000 races if you aren't dedicated. So that's what we're seeing, the proof.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I think, you give up a lot for what you're getting here as far as your personal life, and that it's very hard. And I think that, training horses is a 24 hours a day job. But if you just let's take the top 10, 15 trainers over the last 20, 30 years. They all exhibit the same sort of traits, I think, from top to bottom. I mean, the way they handle their business, the way they're professional, the amount of hours they put in. There is absolutely a patented system of all those guys. They have different methods of training, but the end result, what they do is the same.
And keep in mind that so much of their job also is communicating with the owners. I mean, we're watching the actual hands-on horsemanship that they're paid for, but you also have to go ahead and relay all of that information to your clients. He's probably going to be on the phone the whole rest of the day until he starts it again tomorrow.
A lot easier today's day and age, I think, for a trainer.
Texting,
you can take
pictures.
that and send a video. Yeah, back in the day, it was all. There's a lot of calls. I'm not dismissing it. Don't get me wrong, but I think technology has helped in that event, and shows like this have helped. Because the owners get to see their horses work.
I can remember seeing Steve Asmussen at Preakness Day a couple of years ago.
Remember in the tent?
Yeah. So how was he biding his time leading up to the Preakness? He was in a tent nearby. He had condition books spread out, about 4 of them, and was on the phone and talking to his different divisions. Right. It's just never ending. It goes back to what Christina and I have been talking about this week. It's one thing, to have. He's approaching 10,000 wins. Just having that amount of starts would be amazing. But to run the size of the operations, the Todd Pletchers, the Chad Browns, and the Steve Asmussens, it's quite an accomplishment just to run an operation of that size.
It's a logistical nightmare. It really is. I mean, you've got to have good stuff. You heard the interview with Chad earlier this week. 200 team members he has on his crew. And that's a lot. This is as I said earlier, this is a very labor-intensive sport. You've got about 3 human personnel to 1 horse at any one time. There's a lot of managing, a lot of moving around. We open up the racing form. Chad's got 1 in New York. Steve's got 1 in California. It doesn't just happen. There's a lot that goes into it logistically.
And I think mentally it can be really difficult to keep your spirits up, too. I mean, Wesley Ward said in the package that we shared yesterday, there's always something to look forward to. But there's also, when you're dealing with that many people, that many horses, there's always some sort of bad news. Whether it's a horse that has to retire, a horse that's going to miss a race, a horse that didn't get into a race, a jockey that's going to ride another horse and you thought that's the horse the rider you were going to have on. I mean, the amount of bad news at the smaller level and at a very grandiose level that you have to deal with as a trainer, mentally, I think, can take a real toll on people.
No, it's very hard. The lows outweigh the highs. For every piece of good news you have, I guarantee you, for every win you have in the afternoon, there's 5 pieces of bad news to come along with that good win.
Well, right now, going into the Breeders' Cup, it seems like a lot of good news and the possibility of some big wins for trainer Steve Asmussen. Michael McCarthy is here. He doesn't have to deal with Michelle Yu, but now he's got Andy Biancone.
Todd, Cinch and Michael have just become best buds in the last 2 minutes. Michael is certainly the horse whisperer. I mean, Cinch was just all over you. Michael, when did you ship in? When did your horses ship in?
Got here yesterday. Horses shipped in around 3:30 yesterday afternoon.
I saw Cece galloping this morning. She looked fantastic. What are your observations?
She seems like she's on top of her game, 6 years old, and this will be her swan song. But from what I'm seeing here, she's very pleased with herself.
Do you feel like she likes the track here?
She ran a sneaky good race in the Breeders' Cup Distaff or Philly Mare Classic or whatever you want to call it during the pandemic. Was wide all the way around and put in a decent move through the lane. This surface will be to her liking here, so you just need a little racing luck.
I noticed assistant trainer Amelia Green was galloping CC this morning. Do you and Todd often collaborate when you come to places like this?
Amelia's been on her a few times dating back to the Apple Blossom of 2020, or I believe it was 2020, and Scott on her a few times in Saratoga, so we thought we'd get the band back together here today. They make a good pair.
Thank you so much, Michael. Best of luck with the coming week, and let's check in with Michelle.
Andy, tell Michael I said hi. I actually came over here to hide in his office, and obviously he's up there with you, so maybe I'll surprise him in a little bit. You guys saw earlier this week when we were visiting with Comanche Country how she had half of her body with a haircut and half of her body without. Well, let's see kind of what goes into getting a horse race ready when it comes to haircuts. There's a lot of different parts of the body that you want to clip up on the horse. So right now he's getting his legs done up. They've got these things called feathers, which are the hairs on the back of their ankle there, and those are meant to kind of help water drip off so they don't get any fungus. But a lot of people clip them up because it just looks a lot neater and cleaner. And you've got to blend and fade that into the knee area so that it looks really nice. In addition, you can clip up their ears right inside, and then their bridle path, which is the part that's right behind their ears on the top of their neck, and that's where their actual bridle goes through. Some horses you will see will have a full body clip like Comanche Country does now, and some horses you'll see that has like an outline on it or half. That's called a trace clip. So lots of extra work going on behind the scenes to make sure all these horses look perfectly race ready, Joaquin. And Joaquin.
You've settled in here for quite a few weeks at Keeneland Racecourse. How has your horse done since arriving here at Keeneland Racecourse at Rice Road?
He's done real good. He's trained just exceptional, and he's enjoying being over here. He likes this track, and he ran here before and liked it. So I couldn't ask him to do any better. He's really on edge.
When I talked to you earlier, you told me last week that we came here, he had a workout on Tuesday. Last Tuesday, came up with a little bit of a cough. Is that something that he's completely over and we just can move on from that?
Yeah, I mean, he scoped good. The blood's been perfect. We've drawn blood twice, and I mean, he's trained great. I don't know if it's just dust or if it was just one of those deals, but it always makes your hair kind of stand up on end when you hear one cough. So, but now he's doing great. He's fine.
You went to the track earlier this morning, as you said. What did he do in training today?
We took him a little over 2 miles today. Just I have to take a little edge off of him. He's really, really tough out there right now. And hopefully that'll settle him down for a couple days, and then he'll get what we call the little happy gallop on Wednesday, and that should set him up for the rest of the week.
Well, you win the Kentucky Derby at 80-1. When you win a race like that at that price, I guess racing fans maybe just want to see it one more time and prove it to them one more time. Do you feel that he validated that performance in the Run Happy Travers 2 back and then the defeat in the Lukas Classic in his last 2?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, the anomaly race was the Belmont, and I've told everybody immediately after the race what happened there. And I think sometimes things that go bad can work out good for you. And, he learned a lot in that Belmont because he had never been on the outside. And the next 2 races, he found himself on the outside, and he ran okay in the Travers trying to catch those horses. But he actually passed everybody in the next one on the outside. So my bad instructions in the Belmont might have taught him a little bit of a lesson in the next 2 because he's changed his running style quite a bit since then. And I think he's made himself for real. Whether we can beat these horses or not, things always have to go good in these races.
And what is that task like? What is this monumental task like for you when you see Flightline in the starting gate in the Breeders' Cup Classic?
It's a privilege to be in the gate with a horse like that and be in a race for me. I'm enjoying all the competition and just being part of this whole thing. And, the chips will fall where they may when the horses race. But there's just one of those special feelings you get. I watched Flightline for the first time the other day galloping and watched him breeze the next day. And, I mean, it gives you goosebumps. He's a really nice horse. And they're all good horses. I think it's equal as it can be unless he's just as good as he seems.
Eric, we appreciate the time. Good luck to you and the team here in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Eric Reed, an example of the hard-working men and women in this industry who then break through with a lifetime win, his happening in the Kentucky Derby with Rich Strike. Speaking of hard-working, there's Harley, one of the most recognizable pony horses in the industry. If they ever have an MMA event in thoroughbred racing, Harley will be the undisputed champion. If you want to catch up on our Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup shows, download FanDuel Plus. You can see our future editions. You can look back at past ones. FanDuel Plus, the best way to prepare for the Breeders' Cup. We'll be back with more Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by WinStar Farm in Keeneland, right after this.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile. She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger. Snake Neck Spear and Sheen Murphy get through and have won. It's getting really tight. The star of the season, Roaring Lion. The purple cap. Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline. Mongostina has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
On FanDuel Casino, we make it easy to turn your site credit into real money. Unlike other casinos who make you wager your site credit over and over before you can withdraw it, we play fair. Just play through it once and you keep what you win. Turning all your site credit into real cash is that simple. Plus, you'll get paid your way, quickly and securely.
Horse, it's more fun that way.
Longines.
Welcome back here to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. I'm standing within 20 feet of the horse of the weekend, Flightline, and it's time for a Horse Tales that is regarding Flightline. There's a couple different things I want to touch on with him. First of all, everyone has seen by now the scar on his butt that he has. And I want to tell you where it came from because I think there's a lot of stories going around. So right from the mouth of David and Gordo, who was there when it happened, he was being broke at Mayberry Farm, and they were walking back from a set, and all of a sudden they heard a huge crash. And of course, everyone runs over to the stall of this $1 million yearling, and his butt was completely wide open with a big gash. A gust of wind had come through and spooked him a little bit, and he backed into a latch on the stall door. So he had to go and get it all fixed up and everything. And now that leads to his next marking, the white splotch on his shoulder. David said that's from where they had to give him a little bit of IV antibiotics, and it just ended up causing some scarring there on the hair. So that's where the white mark comes from as well. As far as Flightline goes from a personality standpoint, he's actually kind of a funny dude. He likes carrots, but only sometimes. He doesn't like carrots all the time. He has to be in a mood for a carrot. So you might come over and offer him one, and he might tell you, no, thank you. Flightline also likes dogs, believe it or not. His best friend is this little French bulldog. Her name is Chanel, and she likes to come up and give him kisses, and Flightline will lean over and kiss her, and anytime he sees her, he sticks his head out. So the one constant in his life has certainly been this pooch. Also, Flightline loves to come outside and check out the sky. He likes all things that fly through the air. He looks at birds, he looks at planes, and if you come over and watch him and you see him looking and you think he's giving you the look of eagles, he's really just stargazing, guys.
Thank you, Michelle. And Flightline is every move followed, whether he's bathing, whether he's out on the racetrack. And back here on our set, just off of the winner's circle at the Breeders' Cup here at Keeneland, I'm Todd Schrupp, along with Christina Blacker and Simon Bray. So ultimately, we were talking about this the other day. He's going to be the shortest price favorite we've probably ever seen in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But what type of price are we talking about? Is Flightline 2-5 against the best horses that we can offer in the world in this division?
I think he will be, absolutely. By the time we're done with this week, we keep talking about him and the buzz he's got around here. Absolutely, I think he'll be 2-5.
Andy?
Trainer Jimmy Barnes, who's here with his pony Amarillo. Jimmy, how did your horses chip in? How did they train this morning?
Everything's going very well. The rain let up, so we just jogged everything today, but everybody shipped in great shape.
See Cave Rock jogging on the track right now. He looks fantastic. What are your thoughts coming into this race?
I'm really excited about watching Cave Rock run. He is so exciting to watch, and we're really looking forward to this weekend.
What is he like to work with? I mean, he's just such a huge, sizable horse. I mean, what are his characteristics like?
Well, he just feels so darn good all the time. You just got to kind of watch him. He's a very happy horse, bucking, kicking, rearing up, but doing very well.
You said you took 5 sets out this morning with Amarillo. Could you tell me who exactly you brought to the track?
Well, we brought some undercard horses with us, and we got one more. National Treasure will be coming out. I'm trying to think I think that's our last one, National Treasure.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. This has been so much fun standing here with you and all these people around here, and it's going to be great to watch Cave by jog by in a second.
Okay, thank you.
Simon, is that unusual to have as long of a relationship as, say, Jimmy Barnes and Bob Baffert has had, or is that very common amongst the successful trainers?
I think, in that particular case, I think it's more a rarity than it is an occurrence. We talked about Michael McCarthy the other day, working 12 years for Todd Pletcher. Look, Jimmy Barnes is in a unique position. He's working for one of the most successful trainers in the business. And when you look at it from a logistics standpoint and a financial standpoint, you always ask yourself in that position, should I branch out on my own? I think Jimmy's in a position. The hours are probably pretty much the same as a trainer, maybe a little longer. But he's in a position where I think it's probably better than if he was training by himself, at least trying to start up. I mean, it's extremely hard. I think 5% of the trainers win 95% of the races. So, and Jimmy Barnes is in that 5% with Bob Baffert. So I think from a financial standpoint, he's in a very good position. They have a great relationship. I know Bob and Jimmy go on vacation together, so it's more than just a work relationship. But yeah, for the most part, most assistants, 6, 7, 8 years. Sometimes you get the guy that's worked 20, 30, 40 years. I worked for Bill for 7 years. Tommy Albertrani worked for Bill Mott for, I think, well over 15 years maybe. So, yeah, I think the longer you work for a main outfit like that, the better it is. I really do, if you want to go out on your own.
Christine, it's an incredible amount of trust that they have.
It is an incredible amount of trust that they have. And I think the job of an assistant trainer, to Simon's point, is so many hours that oftentimes if you get the young kind of up-and-coming assistants, unless you really have designs on becoming a trainer, it's not really the life choice that a lot of people would make just because you have to be so dedicated. But because they are a family, because they are so close. And they've really been through thick and thin. Jimmy went under a serious accident on a pony not long ago. Bob with his heart attack in Dubai several years ago. I mean, they've have that relationship where they care about each other, as Simon says, as family.
And one quick last comment about an assistant staying with a trainer for a long time. I think the longer you stay with the trainer, the more respect you get from the trainer, even if you want to go out on your own. It's not like a guy's coming in a barn for a cup of coffee 2 years, going to try and steal some of your owners. I think if you have some longevity there, they're more likely to support you in your venture when you go on your own.
Respect from the owners, too. Then hopefully they support you when you go on your own, too.
Earlier, we showed you Aloha West with his last major move before defending his title in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Gabby Gaudet is standing by with his trainer.
Todd, we're back at the barn here. Aloha West is getting a well-deserved bath after his workout, and here with trainer Wayne Catalano. All right, Wayne, did you take this video or did someone else take this for you?
No, Michael took it.
Okay, Michael Adolphson actually took this video. Here, let's turn around. Or which way do you want to go? Tell me what what you see with him coming down the stretch here.
I see him striding out perfectly. I'm really liking it. You can see him slow it down right here. That was a heck of a slow-mo for Michael. He's been a friend of mine for a long time.
Oh, he's just striding out, though. Look at that stride.
Yeah, it's great stride. Worked great. I don't know what Christine was looking at, tell her, but the left hand, it wasn't taking hold of nothing there. But point it out to me, tell her.
So last year was a completely different situation, right? He had some races. This year he's coming in off a little bit of a layoff. How do you change his preparation?
Well, we just went day by day, actually. I mean, he's coming off a layoff. Horse was doing good, so we were squeezing in some time. I said, well, we'll just get him work by work and see how he takes them. And every work was great. Every work, he come back good. And The one when he went 58 and change, he said, okay, I think we're good. He come out of that one great, licked the feet up, yelling and screaming like he does, and I was happy with it.
All right. Thank you so much, Rainey. Looks great as we check in with Michelle You now.
Thanks, Cavs. I'm walking over here with Todd. He wanted to see how much cross-country action we could get in for the day. Is this a good regiment for you daily?
Yeah, getting my steps in.
About how many steps do you walk a day?
Actually, I looked last week when we were down in Barn 6 at Keeneland. I think I was getting 15,000.
I feel like that's a lot. How many miles does that convert to?
I have no idea.
One of you guys that's mathier than us, figure that out.
Yeah, when we were having 6 sets, it was good.
All right, we're following Mel at that out right now. Oh, stairs coming up. First of all, I want to say, I saw her working with Ness, and she's just like twice the size of Ness. Has she always been such a big, scopy filly?
She's always been a scopy filly, but she's definitely, as a 4-year-old, matured and filled out and really put on some condition this year that, we struggled a little bit with that last year, and that's why we strongly considered running her in the Belmont, but I felt like after the Oaks, we just need a little more time.
I mean, she's really thriving from the program that you've put her into. Is it hard coming into the Breeders' Cup Distaff with 2 such sensational fillies?
I mean, look, you hate to run 2 fillies like this against each other, but it's the obvious thing to do, and they've both been so special to us in our barn. You hate to do it, but at the same time, you got to root for both of them.
I want to talk about Life is Good. We saw him out this morning. Everyone's loving the way he's coming into this race. Is it hard to gauge him because he's always so high energy?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I would be concerned if he didn't show that energy. He's literally every single day that we've trained him come out here with that same attitude and energy level. That's what we come to expect from him, and that's what he pretty much has done every day. Have you ever arm wrestled Amelia? No, I was kidding Amelia because I saw the interview. And she really, she's a terrific rider. She's not, I think I heard Christina say, I'd like to see what her biceps are. Yeah. They're tiny, but she's just, so well balanced and such a good rider. It's really not all about strength. What about in the barn? I feel like all these horses are such pros on the track. Are they fun-loving at the barn, or are they all business? They're all different. They all have a little bit different personalities. Malathaat's probably one of the kindest fillies you'll ever be around. Ness, a little more nippy. She's got a little more attitude at times. But, they're all their own personalities. Well, I appreciate the workout today, Todd. I'm going to let you climb the stairs. I'm going to stay right down here, and we're going to send you guys off to a break.
I have Doc.
Global Campaign by 2, and Global Campaign will win the Grade 1 Woodward.
It is Global Campaign holding on to the lead. Global Campaign won the Peter Pan.
Quality Road, proving Lane's End's tried and true stallion making tradition, a tradition that leads to success for our partners and our stallions. Quality Road has sired multiple Eclipse Award and Grade 1 winners, including champion 2-year-old colt Corniche, champion 2-year-old filly Caledonia Road, champion 3-year-old filly Abel Tasman, and multiple Grade 1 winner City of Light. He's a leader of his generation. Quality Road, a stallion that stands above the rest.
The industry has a few things that we have to take care of better, and one was the aftercare of the horses.
We have a social responsibility to make sure that thoroughbred aftercare is also #1 on the list.
Just the word aftercare has become part of the vernacular in a way that it was not.
We started with some 21 organizations, and now we're up to over 82 facilities throughout the country and giving away almost just under $25 million.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
Looking to give your handicapping game a sharper focus? RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. Customized PPs, summary and individual research, handicapping angles and back testing, true odds predictive analysis, and pace projection. With innovative analytics powered by data from Equibase, it will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level. RaceLens, bringing clarity to handicapping. Learn more at equibase.com/racelens.
Well, a lot of people reached out to us on Twitter, and they were asking about one horse in particular. And this is, of course, Lava Man, the very famous Lava Man. And one thing that Doug O'Neill just told me a moment ago is that he still gets an incredible amount of fan mail every single year. He's actually 21 years old, and this will be the last year that he is a pony. He's actually, after Breeders' Cup, Doug brought him here for the Breeders' Cup, and he'll continue on being pony this for the next couple of days, and then he will retire to Old Friends Farm. But you still see he's got a lot of pep in his step as he is going to be heading out to the track in just a moment. Work continues for good old Lava Man this week.
I had to stop and talk one last time to Phil Bauer about the X Factor, or I think I've got this right, Kizra, as to what you're seeing from her, because she catches my eye every single day I see her out on the track.
You know, I have to agree. We feel like out of the Alcibiades, she's taken a step forward, and all her preparation so far has gone the right way. So, you know, I think we're coming into it the right way. And, you know, she was standing out the other morning next to the pony, and I feel like she's grown since Saratoga. And, you know, everything's going the right way.
Phil, I know you had another horse entered but didn't end up running in the Breeders' Cup. So this for you is your first time for real. What is that like?
Pretty exciting. You know, hopefully this is the first of many to come, but certainly going to enjoy the moment being here, because horse racing, you never know. So I think it's I think we're excited mostly for the owners. You know, they've put so much into the game, and to finally reach this level is what you do it for. So
who will be there with you? Your family, everybody, a lot of friends, since you're local?
I'm not sure. You know, we might try and keep it to a small crowd with just, I don't think it's added pressure, but you just want to get through the day with everything going well and not have to worry about a lot of other stuff. So I know that a lot of people around Louisville are rooting for us, so it's always good to have people on your side. But as far as the event itself, I think it'll just kind of focus on who's tightly involved with her and go from there.
Hopefully more of the same coming up. In the meantime, well done.
Thank you.
Philly will be shipping over to Keeneland in the next couple days, or today actually, and then resume training over there, and hopefully everything continues the way it has here.
Yeah, we're going to see this track get a lot more crowded, especially as the Euros are clearing quarantine as well.
Yes, absolutely, no question.
This filly looks good, though. I mean, she looks like she's really thriving right now. He has to be happy with that.
And Phil, one of the great young trainers in the game, and so many opportunities ahead over the 2 days of championship racing here at Keeneland, Friday and Saturday, the Breeders' Cup. Wicked Halo, a horse that, well, is coming back in a short amount of time. We just saw her at the Keeneland Fall Meet, and Wicked Halo going to have the turnaround back into the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, a race that you can only see on FanDuel TV. FanDuel TV will be the exclusive carrier of the first two championship races on Saturday, one of them being the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Now, we talked about this with the Steve Asmussen trainees time is irrelevant. If anything, they're working against ever having a really, really fast time. And this will be another example. The half mile is going to be completed in a little over 53 seconds.
Yeah, if you're going around there 47 and change, I pity you as the exercise rider.
You're fired. If that's the case for Steve.
It won't be a pleasant return. You might just send the horse back to the barn and go find another job. But yeah, this is a slow half mile, 52. You can see the horse, fairly difficult to handle, figure 8 nose band, and you can see the rider's doing a great job there, but nothing fancy here, nothing remarkable.
Yeah, nothing that they want her to do too much at all. Kind of a shorter stride on her here, just a little bit more than a gallop. Those ears pinned, that kind of attitude about her, she does that in some of her other works. I've watched her on tape in the past. Back-to-back wins for her coming into the Breeders' Cup, including a pair of wins through the summer as well. So she's on a nice 4-race win streak, 1 for 1 here at Keeneland. Taking on older, the distance is not a problem for her at all. She's 2 for 3 at the 7 furlongs.
And then there's Gunite, another horse making a short turnaround for trainer Steve Asmussen. Both these horses were so impressive in their most recent start. He contemplated whether or not they deserved a chance on the biggest stage and decided yes, they do. So Gunite is looking at the Big Ass fans, looking at the Breeders' Cup Sprint after having a big sprint win here at Keeneland.
Yeah, cross into the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile as well. But look, this is kind of a remarkable workout. He's hanging on one rein here. You can see, the left rein is very tight, very taut. The right rein, big loop in it. So he's a horse that, has probably done this in the past. So you can see that big loop in the right rein, and the rider pulls on that right rein to get him to switch leads. Got blinkers on. For me, look, his race record is remarkable, but you don't usually see horses exhibiting this kind of behavior at this level. He's probably done it all his life, but he's literally hanging on that one rein.
It's also, I think, interesting just because this horse is coming back in 14 days. You wouldn't have been surprised if he didn't work him. He must be a good feeling horse and a horse that you have to do a little bit more with, and a horse that kind of thrives on his training. He has had a very busy summer all the way through Churchill, Saratoga, Keeneland here as well. That last race, October 22nd, now we get a work from him right in between as we head into the Breeders' Cup.
And that behavior wouldn't throw me off. Again, this is, we're coming in for one work. This horse has a great body of work and has worked like that in the past.
The half mile in 51 and 3, just a little bit ago. Is it the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile? Is it the Cutter Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint? Those decisions have to be made very soon because the post-position draw is later today, which you will see on FanDuel TV. National Treasure, one of 2 horses for trainer Bob Baffert going in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And before this horse left California, Michelle Yu was interviewing Bob Baffert after his horses had worked, and he kept kind of imploring everyone, don't forget about National Treasure. The horse is doing great.
Yeah, this is a horse that's just stunning to look at. Big, beautiful son of Quality Road. He's out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare. You'd expect him to continue to improve as the distances progress. He was a $500,000 purchase. Broke his maiden first time out, beating a stablemate, and Massimo came back with that second-place effort against Cave Rock, who looks like he's going to be the favorite in the juvenile this year. Bob Baffert has flirted a little bit back and forth with the blinkers with him. He ran in blinkers in his debut. He took them off for the American Pharaoh, not wanting him to get too keen. He worked in the blinkers that we saw a couple days ago. So keep that in mind if you do see an equipment change. Perhaps he's going to put the blinkers back on for the race.
Yeah, remains to be seen. But where do the 5 lengths come that he has to make up on Cave Rock? That would be my problem. He can take a step forward, but he just might flat out not be as good as his stablemate, at least at this stage.
And the Grade 1 American Pharaoh is Cave Rock, who won off by 5. It was National Treasure, who was second in that race by a clear margin as well, 3.5 lengths. National Treasure, a son of Quality Road, out of the Medaglia d'Oro mare Treasure, bred by Peter Blum Thoroughbreds here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Out on the track, in from California, National Treasure. Also in from California, Michelle Yu. But her microphone did not travel with her. Her luggage will be delivered to her hotel as well. Maybe with the microphone.
She left it in a taxi ride last night. That's a whole different story that we need to get to by the end of the show.
By the way,
yeah, it
no
will happen.
excuses for Michelle. She's playing like a champion today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you want to talk about improvising? I want to travel with her because she'll figure it out. And National Treasure for trainer Bob Baffert, but Cave Rock, as Simon mentioned, will be expected, I would think, an odds-on favorite in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Second lowest favorite on the weekend behind Flightline, for sure.
Joaquin, where are you at?
Well, Todd, I am walking right behind Kamari right now for trainer Wesley Ward. You have Blake Heap on the pony, who's just in front of Kamari right now, but they're making the long walk from Wesley Ward's barn and going to be heading over here to the Bonds on Rice Road, which we've just got to right now. But Kamari, the 5-year-old mare, 9-time winner. She's banked over $1.1 million in her career. It really seems, Todd, that she has taken her game to a new level in her last couple races, winning the Honorable Miss 105 by her speed figure, topping a new speed figure in her next start with the Grade 2 Gallant Bloom. Over at the Belmont at Aqueduct meeting on the 25th of September. She's won here at Keeneland. She's had 3 runs, 2 victories here, multiple graded stakes winners. So a good look at Kamari, who's got her filly and mare sprint saddle towel on here. She's walking to the barn. The rider's going to get up and she'll be going out for a jog in just a little bit. So we'll anticipate seeing Kamari on the racetrack, Michelle, coming up here in just a few moments.
Thanks, Joaquin. In addition to the main track that we have here at Keeneland, we also have a training track. It is a synthetic surface, and we've been watching the Japanese entrant, Chain of Love. This is her 3rd lap jogging around here now. If you guys remember, back 12 months ago, the Japanese sent 7 horses to the Breeders' Cup, winning 2 races. This is their sole entrant from Japan this year, and she's quite the world traveler. She raced in Saudi Arabia, she raced in Dubai, and most recently she's coming off a victory in Japan. I thought she's looked really good traveling around the surface right here, which is obviously not the surface that she'll be racing on. And I do think it's interesting. She trains with just an inside cheek piece. We call those winkers. They just look like a fuzzy side on their face. And I asked Kate Hunter, who is our Japanese translator and liaison, and she said that the filly trains with that to keep her straight. Otherwise, she can be a little squirrely. So we've been watching her go around here. She's looked really good. So that's Chain of Love. She'll be going postward in the filly and mare sprint.
I want to go back to that first point that Michelle made. I thought after last year's Breeders' Cup, then it was just going to be a handful of horses every year from Japan. Only one this year. Why? After all that success. Is there any reason you can point to?
I think it goes in ebbs and flows, the quality of horses that they have to bring. I think they're in a situation where they don't want to bring horses just to bring horses. And I think the West Coast is always a little more appealing to runners coming from the Pacific Rim as far as travel goes. I mean, they go all over the world, but you know, you can't have, 6 or 7 runners every year, probably. It just didn't work out this year.
Chain of Love, a serious contender in this race, Christina?
I think so. I think she's run a couple of numbers, at least as far as the thoroughgraph figures. I compared those last night where she does fit with the horses. The distance isn't any kind of a problem for her. I did see her yesterday kind of up close with my own eyes. Her weight looks good. She looks like she's traveled very well. So she does seem to be one that is coming into her best effort. We'll find out if that's good enough or not. Okay,
the goal of the Breeders' Cup is to bring the world's best in all these different divisions. So how have horses based outside of the United States done in the Breeders' Cup? Looking back just to last year, we talked about the breakthrough wins by Japan, Love's Only You, brilliant in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, then the shocking upset in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff with March Lorraine, the shocking circumstances around Modern Games running for purse money only, and then there was Space Blues. Interesting that there's 4 winners there, but only 2 trainers represented as Modern Games and Space Blues coming from the same yard, then Love's Only You and March Lorraine. Later today, it is the Breeders' Cup post position draw, 14 championship races, and you will see all of them drawn on FanDuel TV with our team coverage that starts at 2:30 local time, and in Rupp Arena conducting the draw as hosts Brittany Urton and Rishi Prasad. Remember, if you're here locally, it's free. They will open the doors at 2 o'clock local time into Rupp Arena. All of this brought to you by Rood & Riddle Equine Hospital. We'll be back with more breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
When the thoroughbred world descends upon Lexington this November, There is one place you need to be. The place where history comes alive with every championship victory.
He's authentic indeed.
The place where the future is built with the fall of a gavel. The place that exists to be the heart of this industry. The center of it all. Home to the November breeding stock sale and 2022 Breeders' Cup. Keeneland.
The NBA is back, and with FanDuel, this season's looking better than ever. Because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet and get up to $1,000 back in free bets if you don't win. Plus, all customers get 3 months of NBA League Pass with a $5 bet from America's #1 sportsbook. That's right. Not only do you get a no-sweat first bet, you can also watch NBA League Pass on us. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
On FanDuel Casino, we make it easy to turn your site credit into real money. Unlike other casinos who make you wager your site credit over and over before you can withdraw it, we play fair. Just play through it once and you keep what you win. Turning all your site credit into real cash is that simple. Plus, you'll get paid your way, quickly and securely. Come see why FanDuel Casino promotions give you so much more than other online casinos. Join FanDuel Casino and play it again with up to $1,000 back if you're down on your first day.
$1,400,000, $2,300,000.
Right here, give it a bank. $1,000,005. Thank you. $1,000,005 bucks away. Thank you. $1,200,000. $1,150,000. $1,001,000.
$1,050,000. Thank you.
Alex Evers is a talented photographer overall, but he puts a lot of emphasis on the thoroughbred racing world, and he has captured some great racehorses in their moments in the afternoon. He's also capturing a lot of what's going on here at the Breeders' Cup. You look on the screen right now, you'll see a lot of his work. He is very, very talented. We're fortunate that he loves thoroughbred racing. And taking a look at American Theorem out at Del Mar, and Alex Evers with Michelle Yu.
Guys, you never know who you're going to run into here at the Breakfast Marquee. I've stopped Alex Evers from getting something to eat already. If you don't know Alex, because you generally don't see much of his face, you just see this big camera. He's like the male version of Barbara Livingston. Is that a good way to describe you?
Sure enough, yeah.
Barbara's like, hey, wait a second. Okay, so you're out here, you're shooting. Like, tell me what it's been like. 'Cause I feel like you've had some really great days and some really frustrating days.
Yeah, it's been cold for me being from California. First of all, I'm not used to 40-degree weather.
It's 70 right now, by the way.
This is nice. This is actually the Santa Anita attire today, just the Patagonia jacket. Now, you're looking for good light, good horses. You know, it's a little bit more challenging here. It doesn't get light till 8 o'clock. Sunrise is like 8:05 or something. So you're out here in the dark, but it's a lot of fun.
When you come in to shoot a big event like Breeders' Cup, do you have like preconceived photos? You're like, I gotta get this shot.
Oh, absolutely. I've got like a list of things that I want to do, and then I watch all the replays, kind of study the horses, try to figure out if there's any special tendencies. Like, for instance, Beholder used to love to run on the rail. So I kind of strategize around that. But specifically here, like grandstand shots, full crowd. It's just, this place looks amazing when it's jam-packed.
In addition to Flightline, who else are you looking forward to shooting?
I'm pretty much the classic and the distaff, I think. Actually, Cave Rock, too. The juvenile, that's kind of my horse, because I'm a big fan of Arrogate. We obviously lost him, so that's kind of the horse I think that I'm most excited to see.
Oh, what kind of shot do you envision for Cave Rock?
Him in front, a nice wide-angle shot, fully stretched out. He's been real nice to me, too. Every time he runs, he kind of gives me a special one, so hopefully we get a nice one of him winning.
So you guys, not only do the trainers strategize and the riders are strategizing, the media is out here, the photographers fully strategizing for getting these perfect shots, maybe to win an Eclipse Award coming up here for the Breeders' Cup.
Aside from seeing Alex Evers' work in prominent publications, he is on social media. Definitely check him out. Very good follow on Twitter. I'm following him as well. We're following horses out on the track. Andy Biancone right there.
Todd, joining us right now is trainer Bill Mott, who is with Elite Power. They just went for a little jog. Bill, tell me about your morning. How's it been so far?
Good. We just had an easy morning with everything. I mean, we everything breezed before they left home, and they traveled yesterday. Just got in yesterday morning, so we just gave everybody an easy jog day, and and Pony War Light got us, and all seems good. This is the last one we've got out now, Elite Power. So we just jogged him around once with the pony, and it seems like he's handling it okay.
Now, you're based at Churchill Downs. How much of a change is it for these horses to go from Churchill to Keeneland?
Well, nothing. The only horse that was stabled at Churchill would have been Casa Creed. The rest of them were at Saratoga. We trained everything in Saratoga up until the time we shipped. So, you know, the weather was cool there. We had a great racetrack, beautiful racetrack. There wasn't much traffic. You know, so, and the weather was mild. I mean, you know, nice and crisp in the mornings. It was in the 30s, but warmed up to the 60s. So we really had a good, you know, good benefit from the weather.
Thank you so much, Bill. We're looking forward to the rest of the week. Good luck.
We're all excited.
Thank you.
The man from Mobridge, South Dakota, these are conditions that he knows quite well and likes to be in. What about that, though, staying at Saratoga for training purposes up on the Oklahoma training track there?
Bill's always been a fan of that, dating back to a long time. He was one of the forefathers of Payson Park with Roger Affield and Christophe Clement, long before people were based at training centers, long before Palm Meadows existed, all those places. He always based at Payson Park, and then he implemented the same thing up north. He was based at Belmont Park. When I worked for him, that was his main base. Then there was a dramatic shift where he moved everything up to Saratoga, including his main residence, trained there. He likes that idea of a private training center.
And Elite Power was dominant last time out in the Grade 2 Vosburg. The question will be that 6 furlongs of the Cutter Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. Chain of Love, we were talking about the lone entrant this year from Japan. We saw in a much different spot earlier, now has come out to the main track here. And here is Chain of Love.
What you'll see with the Japanese runners, or just the one this year, is that they spend a lot of time outside of the stall. You know, horses in North America, they come out, they warm up a little bit, they train, they go back, they walk. These horses are going to be out of the barn for probably close to maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. They'll do a lot of pre-work before they get on the actual racetrack, and I think that's part of the thinking to go into the training track first and then coming here.
Yeah, so the training track would have been like the little bit of a warm-up. We heard Michelle say that she took several laps around there at the jog, and then now making her way up to the main track. There's that little winker, that one piece kind of along her cheek that Michelle pointed to earlier in her report. Interesting that it's only on one side for her. Generally, you see this kind of equipment on both sides of a horse, but as she pointed out, just to help her stay straight, not to lean out at all on her rider. So this is not a big, strong piece of work, just a nice, easy gallop, but keeping with that routine of being out of the stall for a long time and really working on overall stamina with this mare.
The Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint exclusively on FanDuel TV. 2 of 9 championship races on Saturday will be seen on FanDuel TV. The Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, one of those 2. Chain of Love looking to add to what was a spectacular year last year for Japanese-based runners in the Breeders' Cup. Michelle Yu.
Thank you, Todd. I'm over here on the corner of the track, and I'm joined by Osen Orr, who is with the Platinum Queen. If you guys don't know about the Platinum Queen yet, trust me, by the end of Friday, you will. Osen, you used to ride her in the races, and now you ride her in the morning. Tell me a little bit about the filly.
Yeah, look, she's very fast at home, and she's won a Group 1 on soft ground, so I suppose it doesn't really matter what the weather does. I think she has a great chance, and she's in good form.
Okay, now you said she's fast, but do you understand, fast? I mean, I feel like European fast and American fast, especially if we throw in some California horses, is a big difference. But you don't seem overly concerned about it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think she's sharp and to stride, and I don't think it'll be a problem. But I suppose we'll find out on Friday.
Tell us a little bit about her last race, because that was a very impressive effort.
Yeah, look, she's very tough. She does things the hard way. She goes out in front, but she's tough. She stays going.
You guys, she's a 2-year-old. She beat older horses last time. Is that something that you see that's common?
Not really, no. I don't think it's been done in a while, so it was good for her to do that. And look, I think she's going to be a nice filly going forward too, so there's going to be plenty of fun with her.
Now, we know that the draw is coming up today, and you said you'd like to see her, 1 through 6-ish?
Yeah, look, the draw matters around here, and especially when she's sharp out, you'd like to get across the rail and go that way. But look, we'll see what happens.
I appreciate you taking the time out to spend some time with us. And for you guys at home, here's a little bit more about the Platinum Queen.
It's the Platinum Queen in the light blue has the advantage. White lavender and Coda Pierre in second and third places. The Platinum Queen, I think she's just done it.
Unbelievable scenes, as I'm sure you all saw on TV. She kind of deserves that after running so admirably in the Nunthorpe and being so buccaneeringly campaigned all season. You know, we hadn't spared her, so she absolutely deserved to get her head in front in one of the biggest meetings of the year in Europe.
There's plenty of people very happy, especially with the syndicates. I'm not sure how many there is, but there's a lot of them. You're making an awful lot of people happy, so you feel like you're achieving something and helping the sport.
We purchased a Platinum Queen from the Tattersalls Guineas Breeze Up sale this year. I believe she was the fastest filly, or the fastest horse to go up the Rolling Mile that particular day, and she's kind of proved just how fast she really was. No, we obviously didn't think she'd be the Platinum Queen. We thought she would be a useful filly who might take us to some nice races, but for her to go and achieve what she's achieved, second in a Group 1, second in a Group 2 and winning a Group 1, she's far exceeded our expectations for 57,000 guineas. She seems exceptional value right now, doesn't she?
And they're away, and the Platinum Queen got a good start.
Goodwood in particular was I think that was the day she really announced herself to the world. We saw it at York in her second novice, but at Goodwood she performed on the biggest stage. Trillium broke the course record, and an hour later we go and beat it.
And the Platinum Queen is pulling right away in very impressive style now.
She was a short price favourite, so there's plenty of people at Glorious Goodwood who had shillings on her that day, and the reception she received from owners and from the public alike down there, it was a very, very special day. Heading over to the Breeders' Cup with her, obviously we're competing on the world's stage now, aren't we? And we are going into the Americans' backyard, but look, we're not ones to shirk a challenge. Us Brits are we? We love to go and take on the world's best. That's what we pride ourselves on here with British racing, isn't it? That we have the best stock, that we have the best trainers, we have the best horses, and that's what we hope to go over there and try our very best to prove that the Platinum Queen is indeed the best 5.5 furlong or 5 furlong 2-year-old out there.
Breeders' Cup has always been mentioned, and it sounds silly if she got beat in the Abbey. I probably wouldn't be going to the Breeders' Cup, because you're carrying a Group 1 penalty into a 3-year-old career. It's tough enough for sprinters. So she came out of Longchamp in great order. She's very tough, very genuine, naturally quick, so we've decided to give it a go.
We've been extremely fortunate to dance at all the big dances, really. Royal Ascot, the Ebor Festival, we've gone to Glorious Goodwood, we've gone to the Prix de l'Arc Triomphe meeting. She's not missed a single beat, and it's testament to her filly, but I think most of our owners haven't missed a beat as well. They've supported her thoroughly. Their sole passion is horse racing. They live the game, they breathe the game, and this is their experience. This is them living out their fantasy. You know, some people play FIFA and will never get to be a footballer, whereas people who get involved with us, they can go and experience playing against Lionel Messi. You know, you're competing against the world's very best on a daily basis, and horses like the Platinum Queen are just testimony to that, really, that you don't need a king's ransom. You can do this on a working man or a working person's wage, that you can compete on the world stage, and it's the greatest game in the world for being able to do that.
So many great ways to get to the Breeders' Cup. What a fun group there. And the Platinum Queen, as we saw there, primarily racing in Britain. There is such a connection to the United Kingdom here to Keeneland. It was the Commonwealth that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II loved to visit when she would come to America. Obviously a huge supporter of horse racing. She loved it right here at Keeneland. So many remembrances of her visits here, and a new one after her passing. They planted these cherry trees, which you see here in the infield at Keeneland Racecourse. The Queen will always be remembered here at her beloved Keeneland. Welcome back to our coverage here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Let's stay with the foreign theme and horses coming in for the big races offered at the Breeders' Cup. And we talk about Future Stars Friday with Rishi Prasad.
Well, one of the most interesting 2-year-olds running here at the Breeders' Cup from Europe is Dramatized. She's trained by Carl Burke, his daughter Lucy alongside me. And now, I know, Lucy, you know the horses inside out. Obviously, famously looked after Lawrence, who is one of the best horses, fillies we've seen in recent times. Before we get into anything else, how good a filly is Dramatized at her best?
I think, well, she's obviously top class. Possibly would have been unbeaten by now. We'd left her at the 5. So, yeah, we'll soon see. But she's going to be our hardest task today. But everything's gone well so far. She's travelled over great, settled in. Looking forward to getting her out of quarantine now. She's getting quite fresh.
I was going to say, I mean, obviously the horses arrived a couple of days ago. They've only been able to walk around. How's she coping? You say she's quite fresh. What are the signs that she's so fresh?
Yeah, that's just her in general, to be fair. I'd be worried if she was quiet. Even after the journey, a lot of them looked a little bit on the quiet side, but she's always got a bit of a perk in her step, and that's exactly how she's behaving, so things are looking good.
Now, did you travel with her?
No, me and Lucy, who rides her every day, have come over the day before. The flying grooms fly the horses from Stansted, and then we meet them off the plane the next day.
And talk to me about how she's been since running in the Lauda, which is obviously a while back. That's back in August at the Ebor meeting at York, and we haven't seen her run since then. So in terms of readiness for this race, what have you guys done with her at home?
Yeah, she's actually always had quite a big gap between her races, so we've taken her away for a gallop in the meantime at Southall, just to let her have a swing around the bend, which Danny Tudhope rode her and knows her very well, and couldn't have been more happy with her. Yeah.
Is there a high degree of confidence behind her chance?
A little bit, yeah. I do. I'm really hopeful. I suppose you can't be too confident. It's going to be a hot race, and obviously Platinum Queen's going there, a worthy favourite.
The whole family coming out?
Just Dad, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just me over the horse and Dad on Wednesday.
Well, that's going to be good enough, and hopefully she runs well. She obviously was very good in the early part of the season. Hopefully she's the 2-year-old that won those races over 5 furlongs. Should be good enough to go close.
Yeah, I hope so. Back half a furlong should definitely do her no harm.
Lucy, thanks a lot. Look forward to catching up with you later in the week.
Thanks.
Perfect, thank you.
Simon, I want you to take out your maroon passport for a moment. There's been a lot of concern over the purse structures over in English racing right now.
It's not good.
No, and you know, I look at Dramatized. She took the Group 2 Queen Mary, and yet she's sitting there with only $100,000 in earnings. This is quite a purse that they get to run for here, $1 million sprinting on the turf, especially with everything going on with the purse structure there.
Yeah, I mean, they don't get the opportunity to run for purses anywhere near this, especially at this age group as a 2-year-old. And that's why you saw the other horse, the Platinum Queen, took on older horses in the Prix de la Bay. That's something that historically 2-year-olds have done, taken on older horses at the end of the year, because they get a great weight break, and it's very favorable. Success hasn't come about. Platinum Queen, the first one to win that race as a 2-year-old since 1978. But, yeah, this is very appealing. I think Dramatized, I mean, will run her race. I don't know whether she's good enough to get the job done in here, and you kind of heard that in the interview there. They're quietly hopeful, not confident.
And Christina, while it's commonplace overseas for the fillies to take on the boys at all levels, what about with 2-year-olds, though? Is that a concern as we get later in the year?
I don't think so. I think you still, at this point, have those 2-year-olds that are, the fillies can be just as mature and a little bit more forward before some of the colts and geldings start to catch up. We've seen the fillies be successful in this race in the past. One thing about Dramatized, if you have a chance to go back and look at the Queen Mary, she's very professional for a young horse. The entire field was all together on one side of the racetrack. She was completely on her own on the other side and still able to beat 19, 20 other horses in the Queen Mary. So while she's young, she's not only talented, but she seems mentally very forward.
Yeah, I think she's I think she's one of those precocious 2-year-olds. It's just as we get deeper into the year, did the others catch up to her, you know? But I think early on in the summer, you're exactly right. When she won the Queen Mary, she looked like an older horse.
All this information that we're distilling here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, you could turn in to money by playing with us at FanDuel Racing. FanDuel is the official wagering partner of the Breeders' Cup. We've got a very special offer as we approach 2 days of championship racing. It's a $100 back offer. It is a no-sweat first win bet. That equals $100 back if you don't win your first single horse win bet. You can scan the QR code on your screen or visit racing.fanduel.com for more details. And when you come to the Lexington area, yes, we're focused on what's going on here at Keeneland, but there's so much to see and do. The Old Pepper Distillery, right there, not far from downtown, a must-see. And not only will you get some great cocktails to imbibe, but there's also some great areas to enjoy lunch. It is a fascinating place, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, bourbon, horse racing, and basketball. Yes, we'll be back after this.
TVG's free handicapping tools are at your fingertips. Access expert picks, both found on the app and at TVG.com. Find selections in either the promotions header, under the More tab, or on the race page for select races. And follow your experts to get notified when new picks are available. Then use the bet ticket to play along. Check out TVG's expert picks, both on the app and at TVG.com.
You called that touchdown. Saw that sack coming. Predicted the pizza tasted better than it looks. And, of course, you knew the game's not over until it's over. So this NFL season, put your skills to the test with FanDuel's free games for a shot at $1 million in prizes. FanDuel, make every moment more.
A Grade 1 winner on both dirt and turf, War of Will became a classic winner with this victory in the Preakness Stakes. He added turf credentials to his resume with a determined victory in the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile, a winner and Grade 1 placed at 2, multiple graded stakes victor at 3, and Grade 1 winner again at 4. This son of Warfront has proven his class at every level. A classic winner with a stallion's pedigree. War of Will, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Zenyatta going to hook to the outside. Meanwhile, it's Colonel John Summerbird in the red cap. And Zenyatta's come to the outside. Zenyatta coming flying on the grandstand side. Gio Ponti on the inside. Summerbird is right there. This is unbelievable. Zenyatta, what a performance. One we'll never forget. Looked impossible.
The Breeders' Cup Classic has always lived up to expectations, and Zenyatta will echo throughout time. I had a chance to see Chris McCarron last night, and he was showing me he's doing some promotional work for the Breeders' Cup, going to different restaurants where they have a setup and meet and greets, but they had made him his own personal saddle towel that listed all his Breeders' Cup Classic wins, 2 of them on Tis Now. But I told him one that was significant to me was 1987. It was the first time I ever watched the Breeders' Cup. I was in college in Storm Lake, Iowa, and I remember no one in my dorm was interested in horse racing. It was a Saturday, and I'm sitting there in the rec room by myself, and I watched what was one of the most remarkable horse races I had seen at the time, and it was the 2 Derby winners hit the wire at the same time, Ali Sheba and Ferdinand. So I thanked him for that moment. I've been a fan of the Breeders' Cup ever since, and we asked everyone out there through social media, what was your favorite moment at the Breeders' Cup? Yeah, Zenyatta had to be right up there for many. I know it was one of my favorite days at the racetrack. Seemed like everyone levitated afterwards and floated out at the track. So a lot of responses to this, and just like my 1987 example, it's a very personal thing. There are favorite horses that you might have. So here's an example. Inside Information getting the win.
Largest winning margin in Breeders' Cup history, over 13.5 lengths. Shug McGay, that was 1995.
Tis Now wins it for America. Special note about that. Tomorrow on our show, we're going to be out at WinStar. Tis Now is pensioned, but he's still residing out there. Elliot Walden is going to have us out there with Tis Now. We'll have a live report on tomorrow's breakfast at the Breeders' Cup show. Other horses that have brought memories, to our social media out there. American Pharoah. So just look at Keeneland, and that is kind of the gold standard for Keeneland as a host for the Breeders' Cup. It was very hard to top 2015. We have a 3-year-old that sweeps the Triple Crown, then he wins the Classic. We call it the Grand Slam. But Flightline, if he does something special on Saturday, is going to be just as remembered as, say, American Pharoah was here at Keeneland.
I think you'll see two of one of the greatest Classic performances, if that happens, between American Pharoah and him here, 7 years apart.
Christina, what's your favorite Breeders' Cup
Zenyatta for me. I mean, I talked about it a little bit on the show yesterday. It was just that collective euphoria that everybody had experiencing her win, and she was one of those horses that everybody wanted to root for. Even if you had a horse in the race, of course you wanted to win. But as she came down the stretch, you couldn't help but start to cheer for her. And I think Flightline is that same kind of horse, because at the end of the day, we're all in this game because we're fans of horse racing. He's the type of horse that everybody wants to root for, whether you have a wager going another direction or you have another contingent in the actual race. You want that experience with your fellow race goers of a horse like that.
And I think 30 years on, if you went back to Storm Lake, Iowa, right?
Yeah, very good. Wow, very good.
There might be more than one nerd in the rec ring watching horse. I mean, you had to be the nerd then, right?
Oh, completely.
Oh, this guy's watching horse racing. Yeah, what's
got
he
all my notes here.
Yeah, exactly. I guarantee you there's a few more nerds in there watching horse racing.
Good to hang out with my fellow nerds here on the set. More memories to be made coming up this Friday and Saturday. Gabby?
Back here on Rice Road, and behind me is Campanelli as she goes out to the track today. And the plan for today is going to be just to jog. I talked to Wesley Ward just a few moments ago as to how her temperament normally is, and he said she's just chill, a very, very relaxed horse. As you can see, she's just hanging out, hanging with the pony. Going to be walking up and jogging in just a few moments' time. The rider has his irons a little bit longer just to get her to relax, and obviously don't really want her to do much, and kind of gives them a little bit more leverage too when they can keep their irons a little bit on the longer side, have their legs hug their bodies more. But she is going out to jog in just a few moments as the Wesley Ward barn is loaded for Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, another situation where a horse has to get by their stablemate in there, but Campanelli going in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, one of those two races you'll see exclusively here on FanDuel TV, the first two championship races on Saturday. Let's return to Churchill Downs with Kate and Bradar.
Well, Todd, I don't know about you, but if you're like me, you'd love a good spa treatment. And right behind me is the equine spa. A horse right now is being worked on or enjoying the luxury of the spa. The water treatment right now is very soothing, very healing. Palmer Petticoat has been operating an equine spa for many years. She's worked on a number of the thoroughbreds that have competed in the Breeders' Cup. Groupie Doll was one of her more memorable horses locally that was successful in the Breeders' Cup. And she has actually worked on a number of Breeders' Cup competitors in this year's edition, although none recently and none here at Churchill. You can imagine that this is a pretty elaborate setup for the spa itself, and it is portable, and she had requests by some Breeders' Cup trainers to move the spa to Keeneland for this week, but it is so difficult and costly to try to move it. She doesn't have her own trailer, that she opted this year to just stay here where the rest of the race meet is going on for her regular clients. So the horse that's in here right now is not a Breeders' Cup competitor, but whether they're a lower level claimer or a Breeders' Cup horse, they get the same TLC and the same treatment. And it is amazing to watch how much they enjoy these types of treatments. If a horse does start to react negatively, then they will shut the water off and quickly take them out. But most of the time, they come in and they just relax beautifully. So it's really a lot of fun to watch and to see the comfort level and the love that the horses get in the process of being worked on and prepared for the challenges on the racetrack. And one of the horses that I mentioned earlier, alluded to, that was a competitor in the Breeders' Cup, in fact, a Breeders' Cup winner that Palmer was closely associated with, was Whitmore. In a little while, we'll tell you more about what Whitmore's up to these days as he carries the flag for retired racehorses everywhere.
I got a hydrofacial scheduled for tomorrow.
I hope it's too.
I know. I hope it's as good as that. They say I'm going to be glowing afterwards. I mean, think of what we've seen. You know, Michelle was showing us up close as they're clipped. We're seeing now with this spa. I think to the outside world, they don't see this enough.
No, there's not enough. I don't think visualization of the hands-on. And we're just scratching the surface here. I mean, we could spend a whole show on what goes on behind the scenes.
We could call it Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, spa treatments, you know, certain parts of the world, they don't do it here in the U.S. Swimming therapy. It's been, you know, treadmills and stuff for research. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's a very labor-intensive job taking care of a race.
I think even as simple as traveling horses, I shared something on my Instagram yesterday of the FedEx plane that brought the horses from California, and I had multiple people from outside the industry from home saying, is that real? Can you really FedEx a horse? I said, yeah, actually you can. They have a stall, they have a crate, and that's how they travel.
Because if you roll up to the airport and you see that FedEx crate coming off, you don't know whether it's your Amazon package or a horse in there. I mean, you can't tell the difference, right?
Right.
It's incredible how they fly these animals around.
Let's get back into the action. Campanelli, we saw heading to the racetrack. Gabby Gaudet was walking alongside, and now we get to see Campanelli arriving on the racetrack. Daughter of Kodiak, out of the Namid mare Janina, bred by Tally Ho Stud, who has another horse that we talked about earlier that is headed towards the Breeders' Cup. So they have been a very consistent breeder in Ireland. And Campanelli's most recent start was over at Kentucky Downs. And she has had prior experience here at Keeneland. At the spring meet, she took the Giants Causeway. So she knows the trip that she's going to face on Saturday in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, 5.5 furlongs over the grass here.
One thing that I really like about Campanelli overall is that the nuances and the intricacies of the sprint distances and the different surfaces you might get depending on the weather don't seem to affect her. She can win at 6.5 furlongs at Kentucky Downs, a very demanding course. She can win at 5.5 furlongs here at Keeneland. She performed and was second in the Commonwealth Cup over heavy going at Ascot. She'll most likely be getting firm ground unless we have some crazy storm that we aren't expecting coming in. Some other horses and sprinters aren't quite as versatile as she is. She's shown that she can kind of do it all in this division.
And I think another strong attribute for her, especially with the presence of Golden Power, is the ability to sit off the pace. She's not a one-dimensional speedster. She actually benefits from sitting in behind horses and finishing. And that makes the, you know, Wesley Ward component very potent because he's got a speed horse and probably the likely favorite in Golden Power, and his stablemate Campanelli, who can sit just off the pace. Doesn't have to be mixing it up on the front end.
Campanelli now being released from the pony horse here and enjoying the surroundings here. And we talk about Wesley Ward. And look, every trainer develops their own approach to the game, but Wesley Ward's is as unique as any trainer that you will see here at these championship races.
I mean, he's really honed in on the sprint division, and then you can hone it down even further to sprinting on the turf, which is he's become very potent at and very strong at. Obviously, 2-year-olds here in the spring at 4.5 furlongs. Speed is the name of the game when it comes to WW and breaking out of the gate, too.
She's very feisty, too, Campanelli. She's like this pretty often in her works. She gets tough. She really likes to get it on and get out there and kind of wing around the racetrack. You saw the rider maybe look back to the pony for a second. I think he was considering staying together for this little jog. They're just going to try to keep her in a jog if they can, but she wants to do more. She wants to do that little canter if she can. Ears pricked, she's looking around, she's fresh, feeling good off that last work.
Download FanDuel Plus to get ready for the Breeders' Cup. This should be your headquarters for the Breeders' Cup. You can view live racing coverage of the Breeders' Cup and access on-demand content like this show, the Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. You can look at previous shows, future shows. We also have the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series replays, expert analysis, interviews, and more. You can download the FanDuel Plus app on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV, your connected devices and smart TVs, and access for free using your existing FanDuel or TVG login credentials. Learn more at FanDuel.com/plus. Download FanDuel Plus today. The Breeders' Cup is fast approaching with 5 championship races on Friday and 9 on Saturday. Later today, we got the post-position draw. Manny Waugh, big upset winner last time out, trying to pull off an upset in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. We'll be back.
It's time to bet the race, and FanDuel Racing has entered the starting gate. Download the FanDuel Racing app, and you're off. It's super easy to use from the start. Make every moment more with tools to help you win on the inside. Watch out for great promos and easy deposits. And here comes fast payouts. It's super easy to use. It's fast payouts. It's super easy. There's no doubt about it. The best place to bet is FanDuel Racing.
New customers bet the Breeders' Cup and get up to $100 back if your horse doesn't win.
Speightstown. Munning. Echo Town.
It's Echo Town for Joe Talamo, and Echo Town raced away.
And Echo Town is drawing away in the stretch. Echo Town wins the Allen Jerkin Stakes.
A sire line so prolific, it repeats itself. Echo Town.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Slate next spear and Sheen Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, drawing line.
The purple cap, Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. Feel them in line. Mongostine has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling big fan in the world. BigFans.com. Exceptionally engineered.
Looking to give your handicapping game a sharper focus? RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. Customized PPs, summary and individual research, handicapping angles and back testing, true odds predictive analysis, and pace projection. With innovative analytics powered by data from Equibase, it will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level. RaceLens, bringing clarity to handicapping. Learn more at equibase.com/racelens.
Honor Code, a multiple Grade 1 winner from the final crop of the legendary AP Indy. Never off the board in 11 starts, he was crowned a champion older horse before retiring. Now he is living up to the promise of his pedigree, with progeny like Grade 1 winners Honor AP, Max Player, and Maracuja, and multiple six-figure yearling sales. Honor Code stands to continue his sire's legacy at Lane's End.
He takes up the chase with a furlong left to go. Cave Rock by 3. National Treasure, Hijazi, and Gandolfini. It's all Bob Baffert in the American Pharaoh, but Cave Rock is at the head of the class. And Cave Rock, ultra impressive, stretching out successfully to win by almost 6 lengths in the American Pharaoh. National Treasure, Hijazi.
Welcome back to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. And back in 1982, John Gaines had a novel idea in creating a Super Bowl-like year-end championship event where the best horses across the world compete. And since then, Breeders' Cup has been such a success, but oftentimes we forget about what the core matter is, and that is the breeder. I had a lovely opportunity to go to Mulholland Springs Farm yesterday to meet John Mulholland and Martha Jane Mulholland. Here's more with a cup of coffee. Time for another edition of Cup of Coffee here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, and so happy to be joined by John and Martha Jane Mulholland. We're at Mulholland Springs Farm, and it is an exciting time for you guys as we lead into the Breeders' Cup. Before we get into the horses that you bred for the Breeders' Cup, I want to get to know you guys and get to know the backstory behind the farm. How did you guys get into the breeding business?
I'll let you.
Well, mainly because we loved race, and I tell people I got breeding just so that we could make enough money to pay the trainers.
But you guys got started in Oklahoma.
We were racing 7 while we were in Oklahoma. We came here to Keeneland in the summer and to the July sale at the time, and watched the all the different buyers. We were in the quarter horse show horse business previously, and we wondered if our eye would transfer to the thoroughbred business. So we came here and we watched the buyers. We watched particularly Wayne Lukas, who we knew and knew of mostly at the time. And we picked out 10 horses that we would have bought from the Keeneland July sale, and he bought 7 of them. So we felt very encouraged that our eye would transfer to the thoroughbred business. And this was in 1988. And so we bought 7 that year, and we ended up with, I believe, 5 of them were stakes horses, a couple of them graded. So we were very encouraged and thought we can do this. And we did that from Oklahoma for a few years until we realized we were away from the kids too much. So we moved to Lexington and lived in town a bit, but we found out we love it here. So we bought this farm in 2001. And we were unloading our horses, our 7 mares at the time, on this farm on 9/11/2001. So I will never forget the day that we got started.
Oh my gosh, that's an incredible story. So you got started with about 7 mares.
Yes.
How has your breeding business changed, and how big is your operation as it stands today?
Well, we have evolved. Like a lot of people, you have to be willing to evolve and adapt as the business changes. So we started off with only our own personal mares, but now we take on a lot of boarders. So we probably have about 100 or so that are on our farm year-round. And then we take a lot of seasonal work from New York, Florida, different states. And but you know, we're always just trying to adapt and evolve as the business has evolved over the last many years.
But you guys still consider yourselves a family operation, a mom and pop operation?
I think we do. I think that's at the heart of what we are. We don't have layers of management. It's just the 2 of us. Sarah Wiley is our office manager. Jesus Penales, who has been our farm manager for the last, he lied to us how old he was. When he started. I bet he was only 14 or 15 when he started, and he has been with us ever since. And now he has his wife and kids on the farm. And I think we don't have all those different layers of management. And that's okay for the farms that do, but that's just not us. We are there for the foalings. We're there for the prepping of the babies. You know, we're here all the time, and we don't pass that off to anyone else. It's just us and Jesus and some of the other guys that have been with us for a lot of years.
So I would imagine that having 3 horses that you bred go to the Breeders' Cup is an incredible moment. But I want to ask you specifically about Cave Rock. Do either one of you really remember him when he was young, when he was foaled, when he was a little baby?
Well, blessedly, I have not too many memories because he was wonderful. He didn't have any problems. He was strong. He jumped up in 20 minutes of foaling. He never gave us any issues growing up. So as to having a lot of memories, no, because he was just a wonderful horse to be around and just didn't have any problems. So, yes.
Did you have any memories, early memories of Tell Me No Lies or Manuel?
Oh, they were, you know, sometimes you know. We can look at them sometimes when they're an hour old and say, this is a special horse. And they just do everything right, and they're classy, and don't have any issues, and neither of those horses. Manny Wall, what a kind, for a colt, a kind, smart, intelligent, willing, wants to go along and make you happy kind of horse.
There's so many layers to the breeding business. We could probably sit down for hours and talk about them, but what goes into actually foaling mares? What is that like?
Well, I tell people it's like getting a couch through the door, that if you have everything lined up properly, you can just push it right out so easy, and if it's not, it's a challenge. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's not pushing that couch through the door if it's off a tick. So usually I'm here for the foalings because I don't mind staying up at night and sleep on the couch some until the guys knock on the door and I go out. And most of the time it's quite simple and routine, and Mother Nature is beautiful when everything works right. And then when we have problems, I'm on my cell phone saying, John, get down here. Hey, Jesus, we need help, because we've got to get it adjusted just right. But blessedly, that doesn't happen too often.
What is the breeding season like? Like, what is the schedule like in booking mares and foaling? And what is that time? What is the time? How many months does it encompass? And what is that time like for you guys?
It is organized chaos, is what it is. And it is, and I can say that, you know, my Martha Jane now is in her 70s, and she is here for every single foaling. No matter what. It doesn't matter if it's 2 or 3 in the morning, she's up and she's there. I need some sleep. I do. So I don't mind getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, but I've got to be asleep from like 10 to 4, 10 to 3 or something. I just can't do it, but she can do it. But it is, you know, in the fall, you're starting to book your mares. You've got to start calling the farms and telling them, hey, are you going to retire that horse? What are you thinking you're going to set on the such and such fee, you know, and then you've got to start submitting your mares, and you have to start getting your clients together and saying, you know, what do you think, you know, what are you thinking about your mare? And that process kind of starts now, or really already has started, and it filters all the way through up until June. We're breeding mares, you know, the first foals will start coming in January, and the breeding sheds technically are supposed to open on Valentine's Day, but they will open a little bit earlier, and so then you get your first foals in January, and then you start breeding in February, and you're just, it's a continual cycle all the way until June, just about, summer.
We divide and conquer. So I'll do the foals at night and walk the foals in the afternoon for confirmation. And he's up in the morning with Jesus doing the vet work during the rounds with Dr. Rocky Mason. And they'll be 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 hours at the height of the season, just checking mares and looking at the foals that were born.
The vet's here every day.
Every day.
Every day. You're either checking a mare who's had a baby, or you're checking a mare who's been to the breeding shed, or you're checking a mare to go to the breeding shed every 7 days a week. That's what you're doing.
I know how much time, energy, preparation, planning goes into it, but my final question for you guys is, what does it mean for your operation specifically to have 3 horses in the Breeders' Cup this year?
Well, it's a culmination of a life's work to have this many for our small farm. We're not like some of the bigger farms in the area here, and that's a very high percentage for us, and I hope it happens again, but I will be very satisfied that it happened once.
I think it's an honor to have you, and I'm very grateful. My father's passed, but, you know, the 2 of them really had been doing it, you know, now for about 50 years. And this is the first time we've had 3 horses in the Breeders' Cup. So I don't anticipate it to ever, you know, happen again. So it's a very humbling experience, and I'm very grateful for, you know, the opportunity.
Thank you guys so much for the time, and we wish you the best of luck on Breeders' Cup weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Exciting weekend.
I could have talked to them for hours, just what it entails to be a breeder and raising these foals and breeding them as well. It is dedication at its core. And behind me is Manuel. You can recognize him, the big, white, beautiful Blaze. He was bred by Mulholland Springs Farm. And in fact, I talked to Martha Jane, and she said that he was one of their all-time favorites just because of his personality. And you can see that hasn't changed. He has a lot of personality. What a pleasure catching up with them, and we wish them the best of luck at the Breeders' Cup. But now we check in with more Kate and Brader.
Gabby, speaking of personality, the champion sprinter Whitmore certainly had a lot of it. And one of the highlights of the 2020 Breeders' Cup at Keeneland had to be Whitmore's success in the Breeders' Cup sprint. Now, he was retired the next year, but a legion of fans following his every move, both on the track through campaigns at ages 2 through 8 and off the track now. A few weeks ago, Whitmore competed at the Retired Racehorse Project Thoroughbred Makeover in the competitive trail event, partnered with his one-time exercise rider, wife of trainer Ron Moquette, Laura Moquette. Both on and off the racetrack, Whitmore continues to show the amazing things thoroughbreds can do.
The Racehorse Makeover project shows that these horses are so valuable in other avenues other than racing. And for Whitmore, the Eclipse champion of 2020, the Breeders' Cup champion, it was to show everybody that even a hard-headed Whitmore could be a very useful horse at something else.
Everybody is here just to celebrate thoroughbreds and their new chapter in life. I didn't really get to start working with them until like middle of May this year, so we had a big crunch time. We had a lot to do in a very short window.
The next horse up will be 472 Whitmore with Laura Moquette riding.
I had a blast. It was so much fun. It was so fun to see everybody turned out to like support him. It was really cool. He had his fan club, groupies.
I've got friends of mine that train horses that called me on the way down here to say, hey, what time's Whitmore showing?
It was challenging, and he made his way through it, and he just took a walk in the woods in his mind and saw some really scary stuff. His pivot work was beautiful. The mounting block was great. Got spooked at some things. The chains cast a shadow on the bridge that made it look like black snakes were dancing on it. Pool noodles were wonderful. The water was great. We've only walked through water twice. Thank God he didn't lay down. He's probably like, oh yeah, I can get her now. But to have him be able to keep his composure, they don't have to do it perfect in my mind as long as they give you an effort. And that's what he did, so I was proud of him.
I think it's all on us to make sure that aftercare is not an afterthought. We have to raise awareness to what thoroughbreds can do after the racetrack. And I think it's really important for FIRST and every entity in horse racing to ensure that every thoroughbred, for what they do for us on the racetrack, is finding a home that they can have a new vocation to make sure that they're still succeeding in life.
He's unique in the fact that he's so successful, but he's not unique in the fact that these horses become our family.
He's just been the most fun blessing in our entire life. I am probably going to do some hunter stuff this winter and just see how that goes. But I thought this was a great place to start because it just desensitizes him to a bunch of stuff for the rest of his life.
Now, a little-known fact about the great racehorse and one-time champion sprinter Whitmore is that though he was wonderful on the track, he wasn't always wonderful to be around in the barns, and that holds true today. Ron has described him as a little ornery, and in talking to some of the people that worked around him, they said what people don't realize is that he could have a little bit of a tricky, challenging personality, but perhaps that's what made him so good on the track and what makes him even more loved. Certainly has his legion of fans that'll be following him, and they'll be very happy to hear that right now, tentatively, Whitmore is scheduled to lead the post parade at Keeneland for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. That could well be a game day decision, though, with Laura Moquette making the choice as to whether he's going to be cooperative or not. But if that happens, Todd, and this is something Ron is very excited about, not only will Whitmore be on the track, but the mighty Lava Man will be in the post parade leading his hot rod Charlie. So the things that these horses do off the racetrack is certainly amazing, and they continue to delight us years and years to come.
Christina, you grew up riding. You can ride to this day. This is an area that has really changed, and a lot of riders who are not involved in horse racing love to have retired thoroughbreds as their horse going forward.
Yeah, it's such a focal point now from top to bottom, I think, not only with the owners, but all the way through management as well. First Racing has been dedicated to aftercare and just to see what these horses can do. And it feels also like a little bit of a passing of the torch. Lava Man, this will be the last time that he's going to lead lead a horse to post. He's going to go ahead and live out the rest of his retirement at Old Friends. It's nice to see Whitmore kind of picking up the baton and carrying on that.
I think there's been a little bit of a stigma and demarcation between the racehorse group and the show horse people.
Right, yeah.
Right? I mean, I think the show horse people look down upon the racehorse people because it wasn't an elite discipline. I think those lines are blurred now. A lot of with the aftercare has brought that about. And you've got to remember one thing. 75% of a horse's lifespan is after they leave the racetrack. So there is a long, there's some longevity there where we need to take care of these horses, and them doing their jobs like, Whitmore and Lava Man, I think it helps the cause.
We'll just have a few more minutes on today's edition of Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Joaquin Jaime with some breaking news.
Yeah, Todd, unfortunately, we have some breaking news to announce here in the Breeders' Cup this year with trainer Fausto Gutierrez with his champion Latruska right next to us in the stall right now. Fausto, what's the latest you can report to us on Latruska this year?
Okay, it's not a good news because we decided to don't run the Breeders' Cup sprint. She needs some days off after all this time to run, and we need to recognize when you don't arrive in the best form, and it's better to take time. Now, finally, she's a horse to have 5 years in a row run, so this happened. No? But she's okay, she's in condition, but we decided to skip this race.
She's had a long career. She started in Mexico in 2018. Is she retired at this particular point in her career?
This is not a decision right now. Now we need to give 60 days off to she recover part of the form, relax the articulations, everything, and after we decide. No?
Well, Fausto, I appreciate the time. I wish it was better news, but thanks for letting us come back to the barn right now, and hopefully we see her again next year.
Yes, why not?
All right, guys, we'll send it back to you. But, Todd, breaking news here. Latruska will not be running in the Breeders' Cup this year.
She was the solid favorite in the Breeders' Cup Distaff last year. Remember, it was on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. We had that odd workout where another horse joined her in the middle of it that was not from her barn. It was kind of a star-crossed week. But if she never runs again, she has nothing more to prove.
Right. She hasn't been quite the same the second half of this year, and it was a little bit curious when you saw her entered even into the filly and mare sprint. But the horse of a lifetime for Fausto Gutierrez. We've enjoyed so many victories between the two of them over the years, and we'll see what happens after 60 days.
Yeah, exactly. They're making the right decision for the horse, and whether she becomes a broodmare prospect or she races next year, we'll wait and see.
Golden Pal is back for more in the Breeders' Cup, and he has dominated from the time of the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, and then coming back to defend a title in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint out on the track right now. And Wesley Ward has said he could not be happier. Are you seeing the same thing out on the track?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't trade places with anybody if I'm Wesley Ward. I mean, the record speaks for itself. 8 for 12, 2 second-place finishes, and look at Golden Pal over the racetrack. This is a home game for Golden Pal.
Andy?
Hey, guys. I'm here with Blake Heath, the assistant trainer for Wesley Ward, who is just the eyes, ears, everything behind the barn. Mr. Blake, how has Golden Pal been acting this whole week?
He's crazy. He's ready for a fight.
I saw you even walking up the hill. I mean, he was getting ornery the whole time. I mean, is this character of him?
Oh, he loves wrestling with you and playing with you. He bites you and grabs you, tries to grab the pony, wants to kick you all the time. But he's just playing. He's not really being mean.
Well, best of luck on the walk home. We'll watch him as he gets off the track. Fabulous job. Best of luck this week.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of trusted horsemen in Wesley Ward's barn, Blake Heap has played that role for a long time.
Dating all the way back to when Wesley Ward was based out in Southern California. Blake was a trainer in his own right, and now he's been hooked up with Wesley for well over 20 years.
Okay, we've got about a minute left. Post-position draw show later today. Look for that coming up at 2:30 local time. Hosting the actual post-draw in Rupp Arena will be Brittany Urton, Rishi Prasad. Quickly, which race are you most intrigued by with the post-position draw?
I'm looking for the Classic because I want to see that Flightline Life is Good matchup, how that plays out.
Christina?
I'm in agreement on that, but I'm also very intrigued about the Juvenile Turf Sprint. I think we have some really fast horses in there. I think a lot of the fillies look good. I want to see where they all line up.
14 championship races in all, and Friday, Saturday here at Keeneland. But on this Monday morning, this All Hallowed Eve. They were out preparing early for the Breeders' Cup. Thank you for watching Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, brought to you by Windstar Farm and Keeneland Racecourse.
I'm very bullish on it.
Tom's D'Etat's got a 4-length lead at the 16th pole. Tom's D'Etat has conquered the Clark.
Your best horses of the last 10 or 15 years are not consistently as fast as this horse.
It's total domination for Tom's D'Etat.
He's a beautifully balanced horse and a really good mover, and he's just full of class.
On FanDuel Casino, we make it easy to turn your site credit into real money. Unlike other casinos who make you wager your site credit over and over before you can withdraw it, we play fair. Just play through it once and you keep what you win. Turning all your site credit into real cash is that simple. Plus, you'll get paid your way.
Of course, it's more fun that way.
Longines.